It is time for the money match here at Deadlock Fight Night, number 27, presented by Intel. ZP here with DDK and Jason, who is out on bail, and we all hope he will be convicted soon. But heading into it here, Jason, we got Melee Creeps up on the docket. John is back.
Oh, it should have
my God, Sergio Red trying to show his presence around the map.
Okay, Jason hit the wrong thing on the soundboard and left Discord.
This is why I can't have a soundboard, because I hit the absolutely wrong button when doing that, and I had to quickly try to disconnect. Wow, okay. So what I meant to do was... There we go. Oh my God, okay. Never touching that thing again.
Okay,
Anyways.
but yeah, so you don't think that there's going to be a chance here, but bear in mind, John is pushed to the limit here today, where he got into a car accident and thankfully is okay, and was able to make it back in time, so there will be no sub. But that has been a thing.
Nice. But they did drop Quig off the team.
Yes. Which
is very interesting. I had to disconnect, so I don't know if you said it and I missed it. But dropping Quig and bringing Rocker into play for the team today is going to be interesting. Because obviously they have like a 7-man roster. I'm not sure what their plan is on the long term, but for Melee Creeps to make a change like this all of a sudden right before having to play is going to be tough to adapt to.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. Where someone also had the question, Rocker, Ido. I thought they brought in Ido to replace Quig, and then Rocker is their sub. But it may be Rocker that's playing today.
Rocker is their sub, but Rocker is playing today.
Okay, but they are planning on having Ido take the spot that used to be Quig's, right? Someone had said that to me. I don't know how accurate that is.
AVG told me that, but I don't know if there's been any developments or changes. But yeah, I'm assuming it's Ido will be like the will be the 6th player, but today it will be Rocker playing instead of Ido, who's the 7th man on the roster.
Okay. So really, we're just gonna add additional players to the Melee Creeps roster, and one way or another, it will be right because technically Rocker and Ido are both on the roster.
But are you saying that Quig is no longer on Melee Creeps? But he's like the guy. He's like literally the most valuable player in Deadlock North America.
Yes, he led them to victory, and now he's gone. I have no idea what the backstory was there.
We need to know why.
I know the backstory. I don't know if I can say the backstory.
Well, we're not the ones gonna get in trouble. It'd be you, but you know.
Let me. Okay, you know what? We can talk. Well, let me ask if I have permission to say what the backstory is.
Well, while he's gaining permission, Dan, your thoughts on this matchup and what we're seeing in front of our eyes right now?
I think that the Quig thing is interesting because he, as far as we understood, and also from the Melee Creeps players told us, essentially was the leading voice, the controlling all of the macro especially, which was the thing that kind of turned them into a team that was like had lots of potential to actually like immediately like the best team. So I'm not sure how that's going to impact them, but still, even with that said, I do think they are better than Valhalla based on what we have seen from Valhalla. You know, we saw them in positions where they could certainly have taken much more advantage, and it looked like they didn't know how to kind of close and convert on that advantage, I think in ways that Melee Creeps would. And so that's something that's kind of, I think, a big difference between these two teams. And I think Melee Creeps will punish them a lot harder than they were punished in the previous matchup against TFT Boomers. So that's my worry for Valhalla.
Jason, are you available, or are you still out here playing TMZ?
I'm here. Because this person's saying that I can choose if I can say it or not, I'm just not going to say it, just to be safe. But yes, he did get dropped from the team, so we're going to see how Ido and Rocker are going to do on the roster. I mean, we've seen Ido as well in the past with B&B, one of the few teams to ever beat Hydra Nation legitimately without having to use a cheater on the team. But like Rocker coming in, like Rocker's been in a rough spot because he like rejoin Hydra Nation after quitting originally, and then now he's not on Hydra Nation anymore, but now he's on Melee Creeps. So it's kind of a wavy route here, but like the core of Melee Creeps is kind of stuck true with Saya, Pop, Low Main, and AVG. A very, very tough squad, very strong squad. And I honestly feel like they probably have, if I'm going to say like best team in the world is Virtus Pro, I think the hungriest team in the world is Melee Creeps right now.
That's why it makes me more confused that they get rid of Quig, because he was like a super hungry team. You don't like throw away the steak. I mean, what come on.
This is the way you don't
Let's
throw
just
away the
say-
steak. So is Quig part of the team, or is he the part of the team that gets devoured by the rest of the team? Is Melee Creeps
That's a good
involved in
point.
cannibalism? Like, your analogy really just falls apart if you think about it for more than like 2 seconds here, Dan. But also, the draft is underway, which will save you from this analogy talk. Melee Creeps with first pick again. Valhalla with choice deciding to go second. What will the first ban be? Will it be Wraith? And no, it will in fact be Mirage, Jason.
Okay, so we haven't seen any Mirage bans today, actually. So interesting to see this one come through. But again, when it comes to like picks and drafts, I think Melee Creeps, we can expect to have a pretty solid draft. I think, you know, in the break, we had some questions around, well, even during the draft, we had some questions around the TF2 Boomers draft. But MC, they're definitely flexible. I would assume we have to see a Shiv ban coming through, or ABG is going to pick it up in a heartbeat. Holiday being banned. Okay, so Saya, I mean, okay, they have to choose obviously between Paradox now or locking in a Shiv for AVG.
I'll say this. I think this is incredibly smart. I've been banging the drum for probably over a month now that Melee Creeps looks better with Holiday than almost any other team. They value Holiday incredibly highly, putting Saya on the Holiday and just imposing their will on the game. Valhalla has finally recognized this and taken out the Holiday. I think this is really, really smart, Dan, just given what we've seen Melee Creeps play with effectively over time.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. You know, the thing that's immediately interesting, obviously, is the Geist first pick. I don't know that. Again, we get into North America and the conventions, the priority changes based on what we're used to seeing in EU. But that said, Pocket was prioritized pretty highly, and I think Valhalla might go the Calico route instead. But Warden also high prio in NA. Like, so these are two different picks, first picks that we just didn't really see in Europe. So I think that difference is interesting. And I mean, you got Shiv on the board, Wraith on the board, Kelvin on the board, like Calico on the board. There's like so many like high tier picks still available.
You know, I wonder if we're not seeing Paradox being played because of everyone using Rescue Beam now instead of Healing Nova.
That's a good point. That's a very good
This
point.
Holiday, you can at least pull them so far away that you can't Rescue Beam them, but then again, you still can Rescue Beam them the second they're lassoed. But maybe that's why we haven't seen Paradox being played too much.
I think that's a very good reason. We're seeing at least 2 rescue beams per team at the moment.
Also, the Warden being prioed early by Valhalla, I feel like makes sense, just in the sense that you don't want John to get Warden on the same note, right? Where it's not only that Warden is pretty high value at the moment, but you know that Melee Creeps, on top of really highly valuing the Holiday, they have been big about Warden. However, the one downside to this draft that you've put yourself in here for Valhalla, especially by going with the Viscous early, is that you've now put yourself in the world where you no longer have access to a top tier playmaker. You banned the Holiday and you gave up the Paradox. So your initiation game here may be a little bit difficult. And to me, when you look at initiation and ways of getting it, it feels like the options have narrowed in the new patch, just by virtue of the fact that Bebop is not the threat that he used to be, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, John, we have seen extend his pool, and that's something I definitely question Melee Creeps on when it came to him joining the roster. Is like he realizes he needs to like broaden his pool quite a bit, which we have seen. Obviously, we got to see Warden quite a bit. I think it was last week out of him. But also, gentlemen, have you noticed that Wraith is available, and Wraith was not picked up by Melee Creeps or Valhalla in the first set?
Ooh, it's a little weird.
Yep.
Well, so I know for Melee Creeps side, I asked Poppy
Shiv.
Poppy this. Yeah, the Shiv one is one that stands out to me the most. But the Wraith, Poshi Pop doesn't rate Wraith that highly, actually. So, and I'm assuming he's gonna be on the Geist as well, which is definitely one of the heroes that he's more inclined to play. But he doesn't rate Wraith. That's not easy to say that highly, as others are rating her extremely high.
I do think if you're Melee Creeps here, you probably ban the Shiv mid-ban. Even if you're not valuing Shiv as highly, giving away a Shiv Kelvin combo this late into the draft feels like it would be a bad idea. Like, I could see there's a world where, okay, you don't love it early on enough to pick, and you think a team giving up a lot of power for it you can deal with. I don't know if you want that to be a thing this late. Okay, and they take away the Shiv. So to me, that seems like the proper drafting for Melee Creeps. The pickup off the turn here for Valhalla, though, I would love to see the Wraith. I think getting Wraith at 4th is still ridiculous value. And I mean, you compare it to other options. Do you really want to run an Infernus or a 7 over a Wraith? And yeah, Calico, actually. That'd be fair. I mean, I think if you pick Calico over the Wraith here, would be understandable as well.
No more.
Pocket's
hiding.
still also possible. There we go. Yeah, crazy. Wraith is still up.
What I feel like they're gonna lock in Calico for AVG now for melee creep side.
Yeah.
The thing is, I don't think they're gonna pick a Wraith unless like John's on Geist, because we know Low Main's gonna be on Vindicta. We know Saya's gonna be on Paradox. Poshu plays Geist, but I guess we could see John on it.
I think we did right one time.
Hello, darlings.
Calico. Saya plays Calico, right?
He's now playing the Paradox role for the team. He's the initiative
Okay,
role, like
so it's
Holiday
no-
or Paradox. And then
Saya
AVG's gonna be on Calico.
Saya's always on playmakers, generally speaking. Like, very rare to see Saya not on a Paradox or a Holiday.
Well, he did do
So-
Calico originally with melee creeps. I remember him playing against
Yeah.
Hydration on Warden, but because of the roster
No one
changes they
builds an
made, he
empire
swapped to the
without
playmaker for
sacrifice.
sure. Okay.
Yeah,
so
that-
John Geist.
Yeah, when Saya wasn't on it, that was back when they had Cool Cheese. Cool Cheese used to be the playmaker, and then they dropped Cool Cheese, and then it was Saya that slotted in. So, okay, melee creeps getting Calico Wraith this late into the draft. Somewhere out there, Lightbringer is still watching and probably losing his mind, thinking about how some of the EU drafts went. So that dynamic is kind of interesting. First gonna be picked up later by Valhalla, but I guess the X factor for me when I look at this is how effective the Vindicta is going to be, but also they could still finish with Abrams. You could get the Abrams Vindicta lane and still have a ton of power overall in the melee creeps draft, which to me would be terrifying.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's actually looking really, really ridiculous at this point. I think Valhalla, though, they have a lot of utility, and I think that's where in the team fight, which is where some of the difference is. Yamato. So Yamato's coming in. The first time we have seen Yamato played all day today. In fact, in EU, it just like was not a consideration. It was just off, just completely gone. So I'm curious how the Yamato is going to play. Is that because Yamato is bad, or just the opportunity cost around the role is a lot worse?
I want to say it's going to be hero pool limitations personally, just because
You were looking to
I think
summon
if you're
a god,
a newer
right?
team trying to get towards like the
here
top,
I
or you're a
am.
player trying to play professionally or play in one of these high end teams, I think your hero pool naturally is going to be very limited, because you need to be able to play like a couple of heroes exceptionally well to be able to join a team, or to be able to play on this kind of level. So I want to say, without any other indication, it's going to be hero pool limitations, because this is a very like roll directly into your face and try to win out in the fight against you, with like the Warden, with the Kel, the Viscous, the Yamato, even the Infernus and Pocket on top of that. Like, they want to be in your face fighting.
All right. Well, how do you feel about it all, ZP? Do you just lean towards melee creeps?
Yeah, I mean, between the two teams right now, probably more on the melee creep side. I think getting Calico Wraith that deep into the draft while still getting Geist Paradox is kind of hard to argue against. And I don't think they gave up a ton in turn. The only argument I can make is that melee creeps didn't get their comfort picks. They don't have Saya on the Holiday. They do not have John on the Warden. So even though on paper they've gotten a strong roster, I don't think they got the historical strongest roster that they could be running from what they like to play.
Okay,
Is kind of the
historically
problem I
strongest.
see. Yes.
Historically strongest, yes, but I think this is very comfort hero-esque. I think you got Low Main on Lash, actually, which means to me Rocker's gonna be on Vindicta, AVG on Calico, Posh Pop on Raid, John on Geist. I mean, at some point we have to look past John playing only Bebop and only playing Warden, and I think we have seen some good things out of his guys. Honestly, I think melee creeps have a very good comp that they're all really good at, like individually when it comes to their heroes.
I can get down with that. It's gonna be interesting to see. I'll have to see what the form is like as well for melee creeps with the new roster. I think Valhalla, though, I'm curious if they're gonna be able, if they're gonna play better, or what the level's gonna look like as well. Because again, it just didn't feel like there was just like there's something that was lacking in terms of just converting on advantages. I think that was the point that I made previously. I just want to see that be the thing that changes, because if they earn those advantages against a team like melee creeps, it just really sucked if you'd see them just kind of give it up. So that's what I'm worried about.
I'm just looking at it, of all people, somewhere out of nowhere, we're just filling for time right now as audio stuff gets fixed, which means you might not be able to hear this, but out of nowhere he gets summoned. Vast, who works, of course, on our sister show, was getting a little bit of heat from production and just pops in with a quick meme and then leaves. Unexpected. That's what I'll have
Oh,
to
so
say.
everything works on the other platforms. It's just Twitch that's struggling. So they can hear us.
Okay, so they can hear us. All right.
Well, if they're on the other platforms anyway.
That's right. No one on Twitch. We've blocked out Twitch today. Just how it goes.
I mean, no one in Twitch chat can know what we're talking about, so we could be totally throwing our hands in the air, pretending like we're saying something really important, and they have no idea that I'm just messing.
I don't think they can see video either right now. Just so you know.
I can see video.
I can't. It's just audio. It's just my stuff that's broken then.
But it's
Okay,
good
well-
because our YouTube stream homies are all here. And while you're on YouTube, make sure you check out all the VODs from prior DFNs as well while you're there. But ZP, Valhalla. We talked a lot about melee creeps, like comp and like what they have.
Ooh.
Bro.
Dan, that is some quality product placement coming in from DDK. But also, look at
presented by Intel.
Yes. Look at the Valhalla comp, though, as I try and focus on that and not the just absolutely irresistible Intel Core processor that Dan is up there. I mean, upsides, we know Pocket is very good at just like tilting the scales in soul consumption and just eating the jungle better than any other hero in the game right now, it seems. Kelvin still has the ability to slow things down and give you good fight engagements. Yamato has been a little bit less from her peak in recent times of taking over games, but is a possibility. But a lot is probably going to go from the idea of what you get from the Warden. Like, I kind of look at this from Valhalla, and to me, a lot is going to live or die based on what soul allocation you get onto Warden and Yamato. Because if they have bad games, or at least even a bad early game, I think finding ways to come back against the melee creeps roster is going to be pretty difficult.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we've already seen Valhalla be able to organize their souls pretty well in the last game against TF2 Boomers, but they also had a massive lead in the beginning. Sorry, I was just giggling earlier because I was reading chat and they're like, why is he waving? Why is Jason waving at us? What does it mean? But yeah, it's going to be tough. But the thing is, they do have like a good kind of like pick comp, right? If they can get anyone trapped in the frozen shelter with Yamato, with Warden, like they're going to die. So it's very possible for them to pull off these kills. It's just like, who are they going to be able to lock up? Because Calico's very slippery and can buy time in the frozen shelter. Wraith is going to be in the back line, so you're not really going to have a good chance of getting her. Geist you can grab, but then she can solo exchange. And then Lash is obviously going to be kind of watching Overwatch for your team and looking for a good Death Slam to open things up with. But at least for Valhalla, they do have a lot of survivability. And we've already seen before in the VP game that you can put out an insane amount of healing on Kelvin with this rescue beam.
The one thing that worries me a little bit for Valhalla as well, I don't know that we've brought it up yet, is with Vindicta, there's not a lot in these team fights that's going to be able to shoot Vindicta down except the Infernus too easily. Unless Vindicta's positioning is not great, which obviously that can always happen, but generally in the bigger team fights, a good Vindicta player will have good positioning where they're going to be sort of in the flank and have somebody with them. Because that's the easiest thing to look for. If you're going to be playing DPS or you know, one of these brawlers, you're going to be looking for those types of engagements where you can come in on the side or into the back for those types of fights. But assuming that that's like not happening super effectively, Vindicta's going to be in the skies, and there's not a lot that can shoot her down on the Valhalla side.
So right now we are just continuing the talk about various ways this can go about, but the reality is that this is a carefully crafted illusion to try and distract you as we fix the audio for our Twitch stream. But of course, if you're with us on any number of the other platforms we're on right now, you get the behind the scenes look where you've heard audio the entire time. And you get to actually, at the same time, you can open up more browsers, look at Twitch, and see the speculation of people wondering what's being said and kind of chuckle to yourself, well, you know what's been said this entire time. You are the inside person on the broadcast while we continue to hold up the teams and wait for the game. The one time where production, we are actually holding up the teams, and it's not 5 NA players in the bathroom. A truly unique circumstance here, Jason.
Yeah, doesn't happen too often here on DFN, but to go to your question that you asked, Dan, I think if anything, it's going to be like knockdown out of Kelvin or Viscous to be the one to deal with Vindicta. But I don't really see them diving like deep enough into the back line to be able to do so. I think there's just going to be too much of a front line and too many problems with Geist, Calico, and potentially Lash in there to afford to kind of like rush past the rest of your team. I think Kelvin needs to stay with his team. Viscus needs to be in a position to like rescue him away if he's going to be the second carrier of the roster. Also there for cubes. I don't really see like an easy road for them to get into the backline against Vindicta and Wraith, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll have to see how it transpires. I like where ZP was going though about this basically being an inside stream, like it's like a Patreon stream if you like a certain tier. I feel like we could like, you know, if you guys were to name tiers for the DFN Patreon, what would you name them? And why would they be
the Deadlock ranks?
Like
right?
Daddy tier. What would be the Daddy tier?
Eternus tier.
I mean, it could be Deadlock.
I feel like you guys are going too vanilla with this. I feel like we got to get more creative.
All right,
Daddy. You literally just took a rank from the game.
Well, we need something
Daddy,
wild. I think you just go for like the really deep cut memes that, you know, the people that have been here from the beginning in the Deadlock community would go. I mean, you know, something along the lines of, you know, the forum tier, where you're at it. You go far enough back, you know what the forum is. You know all about what happens when you do an international competition on Spain in Deadlock. But either way, the time for Phil is over. The match is underway. Jason, final thoughts as we get a chance here to look at the lanes and how this one is going to transpire.
Yeah, my final thoughts for the tier, the People's Dick tier. And that would be owned by me and only me. You cannot support DFN on Patreon more than I do with that tier. We'll lane matches when we get there. We're going to see Zerb's going to be once again over on the Calico. When I was playing Chiv, AVG needs to learn how to spell. Just saying. But I'm trying to see who's on who. We see Do on Pocket, but that's kind of to be expected. We can see the lane match with the guests. We have Paradox Geist over in the right lane for melee creeps. We got Lash and Wraith in the left lane and Vindicta Calico. I'm kind of curious how this Vindicta Calico lane can go. I want to see like how well AVG is able to box run, but also like any kill potential with any of these stakes.
Alrighty, kicking off with a little bit of a bang here on the left-hand side. Seeing Pop being brought down to half, and yeah, I mean, this one's going to be interesting. I think for me, Dan, as I look at this, so much of this is going to be based around Valhalla not getting behind. I don't think they really have a comp here that's going to be able to be threatening should they fall behind. But if they can stay even, if they can get a good amount of farm on the DMB, I mean, there is the possibility of turning this thing in their favor.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm curious where they will find the advantages. I definitely think the kind of threat at the last stand early is going to be very important in some of these objectives for those dives. And like getting ahead on the objectives early obviously will be like one way they can really hold on and keep themselves in initiative. But with that said, some danger here for John. Oh my goodness, going to fall to the Infernus after all. There's some help coming in also from Scout on the Yamato. Let's go.
Oh, wow. Valhalla just winning on all aspects of the map at the same time. A ridiculous beginning, although I do love the simple, easy to not know tech of someone's trying the mantle. Just hit him with a quick little light melee. And all your troubles will be solved as they get stunned to the ground.
Just a little slap. Okay, well, we get paused here. I feel like this is like meta from EU bleeding over because people want to be like the EU teams. What do you think? We seeing like a social contagion here with this pausing?
It may be. I mean, they all watch EU. They know, hey, nothing happens in EU when they pause 8,000 times a game. We too could pause 8,000 times a game, and we will begin, much to one of our producers, Low2's chagrin, pause maxing. The new meta here at Deadlock Fight Night. However, should that become the meta, I will then be engaging in ban maxing, which I believe will be a little bit stronger. So that's where we're at.
Fair enough. Well, at least we get lots of good cinematics in those moments to appreciate. Source 2 engine doing its thing. Shiny surfaces and all that. Okay, well, we've got a fight breaking out on the left side lane. That looks like Pocket came in on the back there. Purdue looking for the damage. But just trying to keep my eye on these exchanges here on these lanes. See where that chip damage is going. So far, actually, it's going to be that Melee creeps are indeed, we saw the kills going there against them, but they're getting a lot of chip damage on their Guardians. They've got to be cautious. Cube in there to keep DMB alive for now for Valhalla.
I think so far Valhalla's hitting what they need to hit in the sense that they can't really afford to fall behind even in the laning phase, so the fact that they've been a little bit far ahead is like very, very good for their end. Although you take a look at the right-hand side, things getting a little bit spicy. John, revenge onto League. Now, look, it's going to be Yamato just getting forced on back, and more Guardian pressure going the way of melee creeps. So, for me, I look at Valhalla, and the objective right now is survive. And if you get a little bit ahead, even better.
Absolutely. So far surviving. So far getting some pressure melee creeps on that left side lane. That's the first time we're seeing them that far up. In the meantime, obviously, we're seeing some defense here. Side trying to get escape, able to do so. A nice little Geist bomb to deter the aggression. Rush back into mid now here for Valhalla. It's just Rocker there at the moment, farming away. Which I feel like leaves Vindicta like fairly vulnerable when Vindicta doesn't get any support. But there will be quickly some more support coming. AVG's going to make a way across as well.
Meanwhile, take a look here. A little bit of dive in from League. Well, on the right-hand side, I mean, HP-wise, it's been kind of a brutal lane here on the right. Both ends still basically at half, and that means we're basically ripe for one side or the other to get a kill. And with Scout getting that low, gotta say, it's looking a little bit better for the melee creep side. Paradox side dive on in, dropping the swap, and yeah, Shadow Transformation not gonna save you there. League trying to go for a little bit of punish here on the outskirts. Super, super low in turn, taken on down. And what was once a pretty good lane here for Valhalla, starting to go a little bit awry, but League was able to burn down Sai at the very end.
A bit more damage coming out there from melee creeps then on mid as well. And Valhalla returning to the lane on the right side. So melee creeps. Oh, actually, hang on. Low main. Is he going to be looking for something? I saw him coming in from the side there, but nope. But over here, though, we're going to get that soul swap finally. And John's going to get out of there after picking off the Infernus. Very rude indeed.
John's been having a great game so far in the Geist, where I think there was some concern in the draft going, well, you've taken away Warden, which is by far John's most played hero in recent times, and not a problem for John. Goes over the Geist and still putting on a pretty good performance in lane. Melee creeps now starting to get a little bit ahead, and remember the stakes of this game where it's really not ideal for Valhalla should they get behind with the comp that they have. So even right now, this is a little bit worrying, especially if Yamato ends up falling here. Scout, once again, very, very low.
Well, Healing Right coming in to save the day. Healing up a little bit. In the mid, though. See what's happening here from AVG's perspective on this Calico. Looks like Valhalla will fall back towards their side because they do have some business to take care of over there. They were trying to chase down the Vindicta, but Valhalla being unable to find anything there, so they have to just reroute themselves back on the retreat. And in fact, returning to the fight will be the Vindicta. So we see the damage get put on by Wraith here on this lane as well, keeping the pressure up. But indeed, it's going to be Sai that takes on League in that mid battle, or rather, sorry, the right side battle.
Take a look. DMB gonna fall down, and melee creeps they're getting mechanical advantages here, Dan, pretty much across the map, where in the very beginning of the game, Valhalla was, quite the opposite, where they had full control, but now you take a look at where the Guardians are at, where the lanes are being pushed to. Melee creeps is just turn things around lane after lane. Yes, I know. Opportunity. And Zerbzy down, up north, lane. Looking for a little bit more damage. Frozen Shelter is still in reserve from Zerbzy, who rightly looks at the situation and says, nah, I don't need to use it to stay alive. You're not that threatening here just yet.
Yeah, it's looking very, very calm indeed for melee creeps now. I totally agree. Certainly does feel a lot better for them after a rough little beginning. We're still in the early game. 4K ahead, that is pretty sizable. Now, are we going to get any shenanigans here? Come in over the top again, just causing a lot of problems here, forcing out everything from Pocket. The shelter comes out as well to keep Dew alive on that Pocket. So that's a nicely defensively used Kelvin ultimate. But in the meantime, melee creeps are like battering that mid tower. And they are threatening the right side tower as well. So it feels like they're picking up wins across the map at the moment.
It's going to be so bad for Valhalla if they're down 1, if not 2 Guardians right before Urn comes in, because it sets up the overall scenario where you're going to be losing a lot of jungle on top of potentially having an unfavorable Urn setup. If Valhalla can at the very least hold on here and not give up Guardians until 10 minutes, the odds of kind of pulling out of the tailspin that they've found themselves in is a lot higher.
Well, another fight breaking out here on the right side. And in fact, we might get, this might spill into mid potentially as well. Trades going evenly though, but John rather still fighting this one against the Yamato. Scout and John both very, very low. In the meantime, we might have, it looks like one's coming in also onto that mid fight, farming around the jungle. And also we're going to get another pause, of course.
Gonna be a quick little restart for Valhalla, but as I was mentioned, it'd be good if they could hold on to the Guardians before Urn. That is not going to be the case. So Valhalla cleanly behind, not only in overall souls from losing the Guardians, but their ability to control the map into first Urn is going to be pretty heavily impacted. But pretty good time here to call on Jason, as we have a pause-based lull. And Jason, how are you feeling right now?
Feeling a little bit rough, man, for Valhalla. Like that right lane has just been dunked on quite heavy. Like League's at 6.8.
Well played.
His opponents at 9.3 and 8.0 respectively between Saya and John here. It's been completely rough. Not to mention AVG's been farming pretty well. He's been able to help take that mid lane tower. And now they're gonna start to look for the jungle on top of this. Like Valhalla, they're in a very slippery slope right now. If they want to keep their hopes alive, they're gonna need to start to look for punishes on melee creeps when they're in their own jungle.
Also, there may be a tilt alert coming out here, Dan, because Pashi Pop drops a well played, and Lord NM, who's been having the roughest game by far on Valhalla by soul count, drops the STFU in response. I don't know if that was friendly trolling at that point. I think that may have been some raw emotion coming on out.
Yeah, classic response. I think you've got to really assert your dominance there in that situation. You don't let them have any typing for free. I think that's a good move.
Don't give up the typing for free. All the battles of or all the plans in which warfare is waged. But 57k to 48k, significant advantage for melee creeps heading into first Urn. First Urn spawning on the left. We'll see how this goes, because the problem here is that if melee creeps is able to pick up Urn, they're probably gonna be able to get an easy turn in just by virtue of still having Death Slam up, being able to engage on their own way. But on the same note, I don't really know if you're Valhalla how you prevent them from getting the pickup here, and they so far no interest in going for a pickup contest.
So smart. I'm sorry to cut in. Did you notice what they just did there?
Tell us, Jason.
Oh, so they delayed the Urn pickup because there's going to be an enemy territory until Valhalla got some more souls to balance it out, and then they went for the pickup when it was neutral.
Yeah, it was right on.
Genius.
Right on the threshold. They decide we want the neutral fight. Makes sense to me. Although in jail is Lash. Last Stand gonna be out here from DMB thinking he has something, and most of the Last Stand going to the wayside, just gets his ankles broken a little bit by low main. And now, next fight, this is real bad for Valhalla. You don't have Urn control, you don't have Last Stand. You have to try and contest into Death Slam, assuming Lash decides to give up the Urn here, but they're not even looking to contest. They know it's just completely not going to be a good idea and go, yeah, okay, you can have the Urn. So the advantage growing once more for melee creeps.
Yeah, it certainly is. And they're in a really good position now to do a variety of different things. I think the jungle invade, invading the Sinner Sacrifices and these types of things is like a really good move that we see a lot of top teams do from these types of positions where they have all this map control, they've got the objective advantages. Because the other team kind of has to respond. Because if they don't respond, then their opponent's going to get all of your jungle and then all of their own. So it's like this unrecoverable advantage almost. potentially, so you kind of have to fight it. So it's a really good way to kind of create some of those early team fights, and to also, like, I mean, they got a 20k soul advantage almost. They're getting there, 15k, so you can kind of abuse their stat check as well. So I like this aggression from melee creeps.
I think the only upside for Valhalla when you look at allocation is that DMB is very much a threat at 13k. While DMB is not ahead of the game, he can still be toe-to-toe with anyone on melee creeps in the front line. Scout, however, falling a little bit behind, and obviously you look at Zerbzy and Lord and M, they are very much just full support mode at this point. So, still, Guardian gonna go down here, gonna even up the soul deficit a little bit more for Valhalla. Not completely out of it, but it is melee creeps dictating the pace of the game. And you're going to feel that even more concretely here in a moment as Saya, not one to wait when an ult is on cooldown. Already looking for the swap here up over into left lane. Telekinesis is going to come on over. League, though, able to punish John in this fight. Right now, DMB with the last stand. Getting decent damage before falling. Still, Saya ends up falling, and it's real back and forth, Dan.
Yes, it only is, and there's now some pressure on this mid Guardian from melee creeps as well, and it could be that left Guardian that, or rather Walker, that could also get some fire, because melee creeps are pushing that lane also. So multiple things here for Valhalla to respond to, and they don't actually have a lot of players up at the moment. Obviously, 2 just recently dying, so responding to this mid push with what they can. But in the meantime, it's going to buy a lot of space for this left side Walker to go down. There it goes as this fight rages on, and it's just about occupying space, time, and in fact, to get the kill there too. Rocket taking down Jude. I think that's just, you know, icing on the cake, as melee creeps can now fall off that left side.
Do also getting punished by the light melee mantle. Do ends up getting stunned, and that actually leads to Do dying instead of staying alive long enough for Scout to bail him out. So, you know, for a simple tech that most people are aware of at the moment, it's actually felt way more impactful in this game than what we've seen in a while.
We love it. We love to see it. It's always really nice seeing so many different bits of tech in this game. The movements and sort of the parrying. I hope it never goes away.
It's going to be funny when the game goes 1.0, because you're going to have a big explosion of players playing and also players viewing. And a lot of people, when they watch programs like this, they're going to look at, and a lot of the small tech in the game is just going to go over their heads. They won't entirely understand what is going on, because I'm sure you give it, you know, however much time it is to 1.0, and you know, things are going to get even more ridiculous than how we're finally are. But the swap over and in, Dude does not care. Finish off Saya. And Valhalla, I mean, the last few engagements have not been bad for them, Dan.
No, they have been making somewhat of a recovery. I mean, it's like a 12k difference right now. I think it was about a 15k earlier, so just going in that direction slightly. But again, you know, the lack of objectives is one of the worrying factors for them. And okay, all right, well, okay, the cube comes in for the protection, and still trying to press the issue low main, being a maximum nuisance. And melee creeps behind this, regrouping into the team fight. Now looking to push the issue now that they have all found themselves together. And Valhalla looking to meet this team fight as well, into, you know, able to defend this position using that high ground. Leak there from up high also on the Infernus, but it's got to be careful, quite low. And in the meantime, Midwalker's getting targeted down by Poshipop. It is perfect distraction for melee creeps to get another objective.
This is a nice trade, if for nothing else. Not only do you get the Midwalker, but it's not like you've fully given up Burn. You gave up control of Burn, but that's it. Oh, man, gonna get caught as things get a little bit more intense here on the right-hand side. And they're gonna try and defend Right Walker and get Urn at the same time. Would not be the worst trade if it works out. Right now, you got Paradox stuck in jail, getting pummeled from all sides. Saya down once more. And the rest of Valhalla able to move over, protect the Walker, and they get the Urn. I mean, this is nearly even things up. So the end of this, not the worst here for Valhalla, although fight still kind of persisting a little bit longer here.
Yeah, if there's a world where they can kill some of these retreating players and then find their way into a mid boss or something like that, that would be truly game changing. However, I'm not sure if that's going to be possible. Only one player is effectively down at this stage. And there's no indication that they're in position or able to go for that mid boss. So, you know, they have to figure their way out to that mid boss in a different way. You know, they're going to find it off of a team fight. It's pretty difficult, but you know, at this point, as we can take stock on during the pause as to, you know, what's going on the map, there is a lot of value in terms of jungle on the melee creep side, which is not good for Valhalla.
There's a lot of lane farm there to be sure, but one thing I think is worth noting out here, even though melee creeps is still ahead, and this is a good thing to bring up to Jason, but Jason, my eye test here when I'm looking at melee creeps really kind of confirms what I feel like I've been saying for a while now, which is that they're the one team in the game where their difference between Paradox and Holiday is ultra skewed in favor of Holiday, because this is the first game in a long time that I've seen Saya kind of struggle at points and ending up having to go for trades that are against him over and over again. Whereas when Saya is on Holiday, I feel like we see Saya going like 8-0, 9-0, just never dying in the course of the game. But Saya feels way more mortal when Saya gets stuck in the Paradox.
I don't think you're wrong in that sense. I think he hasn't played Paradox as much as he's played Holiday. He's actually played Holiday 8 times, Paradox twice. I think he's just getting caught out sometimes. I mean, he got caught in his own jungle, I believe, previously, and he was like forced to swap, and then he was dead. But I mean, I think he's still like doing well, though. I mean, okay, he's missed a couple of paradoxical swaps.
Okay, you are cursing him in the moment, yes.
I still think he's playing well. I mean, they're still up, 9, almost 10k souls. But I know what you mean. His Holiday has definitely been more effective in the past to facilitate these kills.
Saya under a little bit of pressure right now in the middle lane. Just meanwhile, melee creeps full slamming into the middle, more rotating back up and over. Valhalla rotations much the same, and actually speaking of rotations, it's more DMB coming in here to the side, looking for a little bit of the jungle farm. I was gonna say maybe going for the guys, but no, just one the garage and out.
Garage and out. Melee creeps, lots of ways for them to potentially try to take fights here. Because you got Valhalla that kind of starting to spread out onto their own side and maybe try to find some of that jungle. And you can hear the noise. And running around. Teleporting. Melee creeps are in close vicinity looking for it. They found 2 players, the Warden and the Yamato. They're in the jungle. They are now engaging in the jungle on the right side. And it's like the Warden got out of that. That's not bad. That looks really bad, potentially. 4 players swarming the Warden, but able to escape.
Yep, DMB able to get out of the danger zone as the most fed player. And I will say, you look at the map control, for only being 9k up right now, I think like 8k, Melee Creeps has so much map control over Valhalla and ability to get the jungle, where I feel like we're at the point where Valhalla should be able to start pushing back on this a bit. Like, the level of map control Melee Creeps has is not congruent with the amount of farm advantage they have at the moment.
Well, put into a heavily defensive position in Valhalla. With 8 Melee Creeps, again, like looking for that engagement. And it's a big tease, really. But the problem is that Melee Creeps are essentially sending Valhalla back into their base repeatedly, which is not really where they want to be. And now they're trying to extend back out into the mid lane at Valhalla. And in fact, actually, AVG is out there by himself at the moment. Okay, he's going to rejoin the pack. So they keep trying to find isolated kills here, Valhalla, but it's very hard to do.
I think if you're Valhalla, though, you're okay with this going more on the late side, so long as you're able to funnel farm into DMB and Scout. I like the late game options for Valhalla here. I mean, there's worlds where Melee Creeps can take it away, especially if Poshipop gets way, way over-farmed, but overall, I think if you're Valhalla, you're okay with this game going late, based on who's likely to be getting the farm and to what degree.
It has settled down, or slowed down pretty enormously. And picked up, so this could force a fight. Because there will be scouting, AVG on the Calico. Calico is a great, if you go into the Ava form, you can scout really effectively. Try to get a sense as to if there is anybody around, and it is a clear path at the moment. Seems like there's very little interest for Valhalla. Instead, they want the Walker on the left side, and potentially the Guardian that is still up in the mid. So that might be traded here for the urn. We'll see how much Melee Creeps can keep up here. They'll get the urn, but are they going to give something up in return?
If you're Valhalla, ideally you'd like that to be a walker, but you're not really in position for that. Instead, it may be just a pick-off. Everyone grouping up in middle. And they are going for the mid-boss here. This is high risk, could be high reward. Saya, though, in danger, trying to get away. Still congeal. The damage is coming on in. The Paradox may be down here in a moment. Last stand up and over. The chase down is there. League, though, going down first. Saya able to stay out of the fire for enough time. Meanwhile, though, you take a look at HP. AVG not looking particularly healthy at all. Gets the light melee mantle stun onto the Scout. Ridiculous. There was some training done specifically on this. Again, I have to believe, because it's just been melee creeps doing this all map long, where we didn't see much of it in EU or in the first game.
Yeah, effectively, melee creeps have deterred Valhalla for going for that mid boss. So that's job done, essentially. And I think that mid boss was not a bad idea at all. That would have been a powerful moment to get it. It might be the only opportunity they'll have for some time. It really depends on how the team fights are going to go. And melee creeps, they could potentially try to bait it. Obviously, they're down Sire at the moment, so they're not particularly interested, given that everybody's up for Valhalla. Here, Ava getting popped in the distance. And once again, back into this mid. And again, this is a very close game at the moment. This next team fight could be everything.
Well, you start out the swap with the Kelvin, and you force out the dome and still put Kelvin in a terrible spot. It's a really good opening swap play coming on in. However, they're not able to finish it out. Still, Frozen Shelter going to be down cooldown-wise, and yet Valhalla going to be committing. DMB over. Last stand, forcing melee creeps to scatter. Melee creeps, though, still really healthy, even as the chase goes down. If you're able to get Vindicta here in the subway, you are, but overall, if you look at the health, Valhalla's in a way more dangerous spot here thus far. Zerbzy gonna get picked off. The rest of Valhalla super low. Melee creeps adding one after another as low main is hunting it all down at really good HP on the top. Goomba stomps a third and now looking for a fourth.
Big damage in the mid boss is surely going to be the conversion here for melee creeps. It's too obvious. Just DMB left. And oh wow, there's so much, so many good fights there from melee creeps. Only a 20k difference in souls, but again, if that rejuve comes online, that's going to change everything here. And this is the moment that they've been waiting for. Melee creeps finally able to get this clean. It's funny, actually, DMB is still out there on the map. He might die, in fact. This would be very bad timing to die.
Yeah, I mean, he's close to a last stand, but maybe not close enough. AVG should win that one cleanly, one-on-one, unless DMB is somehow able to break his ankles. Guess what's going on there, because you look at the rejuve. The rejuve is going to go the way of melee creeps. And DMB is able to shake the Calco pressure, so at least an upside there. But I look back at the last fight, and I feel like just letting Kelvin die and leaving was probably the lesser of the two evils rather than full committing after it was gone. Because the rest, I don't think the rest of Valhalla actually had to take that fight.
Yeah, I think that's a fair. It's very hard sometimes, especially because it's been like a stalemate, and they might be feeling like, okay, this is like it's our chance to actually like have a team fight here and get back, recover that 15-20k difference. But well, oh hello. Okay, Warden is really going for it right now. This is a problem. TP actually manages to get hit off there, and that's going to be an escape made.
Yeah, Warden did the quick look-see and then, okay, can I find him after the TP? And the answer was very obviously no.
Strength will be yours.
But right now, Valhalla, again, pretty firmly behind, but based on who they have their farm on, these fights are still winnable. However, with where Pashi is now 33k, they have to find a way to neutralize Pashi early in the fight and not have the fight open up on a swap. I think are kind of the two things Valhalla has to angle the fight to if they want to take a fight with this level of soul deficit.
Yeah, it's definitely feels definitely recoverable from this point, yeah. And we'll see what can happen here. This is a really good chance for Valhalla. They've got them out on the map here in these engagements, and it's a sprawling engagement that popped that Calico all here to try to get out of trouble. We're going to see something here from Yamato. Scout getting into the action. Still pretty healthy, but they've lost 2 players already, so the focus fire now is going to get pretty problematic for the remainder of Valhalla, as we do get our best effort here from Scout, but just getting completely surrounded here and just eventually getting finished off. It's just overwhelming numbers, overwhelming forces, and Valhalla are falling sadly. I don't know what they're going to be able to do here. They are on the full retreat, but they are getting cut down as they try to run back to base.
I think what you just saw there is the end of the game. At least in terms of Valhalla's ability to reasonably contest this. They are going to lose objectives off this. They are going to fall even further behind, a firm 31k. And yeah, I mean, Shrines are going to go down, likely first stage Patron. Everything going Melee Creep's way, and the ability to get a good engage at this point, it's pretty limited. They don't have great initiation tools, and being this far behind with a comp that kind of relies on being able to bully via stat checks into the late game is less than ideal for many, many reasons.
What do you think, Jason?
I think this game's kind of just over. I mean, we did have League and Zerbsy go push the left-hand lane, trying to get themselves a second walker, but they've left the Patron completely open. Even a Death Slam going to be here to finish it off. I think Melee Creeps could be up 1-0 in the series.
Patron getting pummeled, and it is over. Melee Creeps, they do not retreat. They sense that they can still end it, and they do. They don't waste the opportunity, which I'm kind of happy for there, Dan, because I feel like we've had a lot of times in recent history where a team is a little bit cautious on ending the game in that sort of situation, and Melee Creep says, no, it's over.
Yeah, I think that's one of the skills when you get a bit better as well as a team, where you start to recognize that you get into these spots where you don't want to take a risk, but then you realize, oh, we have to kind of trust that if we just make some good aggressive calls, that's actually the better way to play this, so we can really capitalize fully on the risks, or rather the openings we created. And Melee Creeps are definitely a team that have limit tested that quite significantly, so they've got a good sense for it, and they are rewarded with the 1-0 here.
Jason, you know, as we saw this, was there any point in the game where you were worried for Melee Creeps, where there's elements where it looked like Valhalla was brought it back even, and they had really good late game scaling that potentially could have carried them through?
I think maybe it was when, I think it was John being one of the first players to die in that right-hand lane, and you kind of had to think to yourself, okay, there's potential here for Valhalla. If they can dominate this right-hand lane, they can get something going for them, then they can definitely start to snowball here because it keeps AVG in check. But the fact is, they turn things around so drastically and so quick that I don't know what happened to Valhalla in that situation. They completely overran and completely demolished. Like John was just doing some serious work. You had a very interesting. You were looking at the stat screen, right? You got to set the stat screen and you just.
I was lost in it. It's too many statistics.
Yeah, too many, but we love to have statistics. But yeah, I think that was for me, like kind of like, all right, this is going to be potentially a very quick game. Also, AVG not really being punished too much when it came to like box running for the most part. I mean, you saw here they initially got some like good kills coming through, but then it was just an all spiral. Like that right-hand lane, Scout and League just could not stand up to John and Saya together.
Yeah, John had a pretty incredible start, especially in this game, I think, and it was interesting because Valhalla, they managed to get a good few opening kills, but you know that quickly turned around because of John's prowess, and you know you could definitely see why the Geist was picked up there. You know, obviously maybe you could say a lot about the hero pool there for John, but at least the Geist is pretty sick, and Geist is always going to be relevant, and so that really paid off getting that Geist started early on.
I do kind of wonder if there's an option of testing how deep John's hero pool is, where so far we've seen John in particular have a world-class Warden and from this game a world-class Geist. I wonder if John is vulnerable to some of the Ido shenanigans where you play against an Ido team and you do things like ban pocket, pick Yamato. Could you go into this, I wonder, and do something like ban Warden and pick Geist? Which I don't think is necessarily the way to go given the other picks that are really powerful right now in this meta, but I do just wonder how deep does the John lore go, and is it possible to ban him out on the draft?
I'm gonna guess it's pretty deep. I think he's been on the team now for like over a month. I think that was the biggest downfall of him as a player, was just being known for two heroes. I think he's late. I think he's broadened his pool quite a bit. Now I can't say that with certainty, but that's just kind of how I feel. I don't think Melee Creeps are the kind of team to let him rest on his laurels of only having like 3 heroes he can play. But obviously, can he play, you know, what they need him to play in these given situations and not have to commit an early pick to him is another question. Maybe you want to commit an earlier pick over to, you know, Poshy Pop or something like that, or maybe for AVG.
Well, of course, if you're just tuning in right now, you have our new handy dandy stat screen. Of course, thank you to production for putting this together. Dan, you're looking at the stat screen right now. Any new storylines you are finding here that you did not necessarily see in game, or at the very least confirm what you were seeing in game?
Yeah, I don't think anything that let's say we didn't see with our eyes, it's not kind of reflected here. I think obviously the John performance, we can see it by the numbers, and it's certainly kind of standing up there as well. I think one thing that's interesting is if you look at Do, because we've been seeing the Pocket be a very high priority pick in EU, and we would actually see Pocket be like just neutral farming like crazy. And in fact, it would be one of the heroes that would have, or the only heroes in a game that would have more neutral souls from neutrals than from troopers. And that's pretty interesting, the difference in approach with regards to what we see out of Do here, where it's like much more troopers than neutrals. I think that's like an interesting note, because in terms of like holding up against the box farming, that we see out of the Calico, it seems like the Pocket pick is able to farm the neutrals maybe the fastest, and so that's a good counterbalance to a Calico on the other team.
I think though they gave a lot of farm over to DMB when it came to like neutrals. Maybe that's kind of why he didn't have as much farm when it came to the neutrals. I don't know. I wasn't watching specifically for that case, but it is really interesting to see that we've had that kind of show us with the additional stats of like where a lot of the farm is coming from in particular. I mean, you look at like Lord and Zerbsy, and their second most souls earned by source was just the earn turn-ins. Like the breakables weren't there, objectives weren't there. Obviously objectives weren't there because they didn't really get too many of them, unfortunately, in this game. But credit to Pop, no deaths, a flawless run out of him.
Flawless.
I'll say this. I almost feel like you could do a combined map control stat that brought like neutrals and breakables into a team versus team issue, because one thing we've really kind of noticed here is that if the game had one team that got really far ahead before the end, they are crushing in overall neutral score. And that is 100% a reflection of the fact that when you are ahead in the game, you have more map control, and by virtue of having more map control, your neutral count to your overall souls is going to go way up, and the other team is going to be stuck, realistically relying more on trooper farm. So it's a very interesting breakdown of how neutrals secure you the game when you are ahead.
Yeah, I would love to in the future see like a differentiation between your camps, like your team's camps on your side of the map and theirs. Would be really interesting.
And it's even more important the fact of the comeback mechanics, like the addition added to the game, right? Like the jungle camps can give you 25% more souls if you're that far behind. So it's even more imperative nowadays in competitive Deadlock to be taking those away as much as possible.
And also, for those of you wondering about the treasure stat, we were there's like 14 different sources for the souls, and this is just going to pick this graphic only picks the top 5 based on obviously ascending order from most to least. And so the treasure one, our best answer that we've had for it so far, is that it's the bags that players drop when they die that like you collect and then gain as a source of souls.
Well, it'd be a good way of like going inside. I don't know if it would actually allocate that, but what about, can the treasure stack go negative? Have you given away more souls than you've picked up? Given away more soul bags than you've picked up in turn? Because that would also be a kind of interesting stat, because we've definitely had games, particularly coming out of Vindictas, where you give away way more souls in drop count than you at all pick up yourself. Like we've seen players gift away as many as 10k souls in the game before, which while generous, not exactly good for your odds of winning. But any final thoughts here before we head off to a break and what could be our final map of the night?
For me, no, just about what can Valhalla bounce back with. Obviously they came into this first match with pick priority. They're gonna have it yet again. It's gonna be an interesting one. Hopefully for them, they can continue to put the pressure on. Like they had a good start in game 1, but can they do it yet again?
Yeah, for me, it's just about what we'll see in the draft, of course, and do they have the hero pool to kind of like have a different draft, because that might be part of the whole story here. Otherwise, I loved your idea, ZP, about the targeting of John. I think that is someone that you could target if you have the hero pool to do so. So that's what I'm going to be focused on.
All right, well, it's Melee Creeps up 1-0. Will they continue the streak, or will Valhalla, at a minimum, force a map 3? The answers to all that and more will be here right after this break. Rolling around here at Deadlock Fight Night, number 27, presented by Intel, North America, Melee Creeps, one map away from being the champions once again. Valhalla came in with a draft that may have been promising, but not quite enough in the end. Of course, ZP here with DDK and Jason. And Jason, you can take John off the Warden, but doesn't really matter when John can still bust out a world-class Geist.
Yeah, I mean, his guys did exceptionally well, especially after that first death in the laning phase, able to gain a lot of control with Saya in the lane. I know a lot of our discussions before we went to break were, can you like ban him out, force him to play something he's not comfortable with? I kind of want to see him tested in this game. I'd actually love to see it. Don't give him a Bebop, don't give him a Warden, and don't give him a Geist, and see what he's going to come up with, because we need to see him have more heroes he can play at the same kind of level if melee creeps want to succeed down the line. And as a team, we've seen them, not be hesitant to get rid of people on the roster they don't feel like is up to par. So for John's case, hopefully he's been working on a couple of different heroes to play.
You mentioned Bebop. We have not seen Bebop at all. Is Bebop dead?
Yes. I actually think...
Why?
I think there's a lot of reasons for it. I think the current itemization, it's harder to build Bebop to be as strong as he was before. I think general changes have kind of hurt him. And then on top of it, if Bebop was going to have control, even though the item hasn't really been in vogue, as of today, things like Counterspell are still available to take away the impact of bombs. So, I don't know. It's tough out there as a Bebop right now. It really is.
Poor Bebops. I feel for you guys. You had your time, but it is no more. But yeah, I would like to see some definitely some differences in this draft. It'd be really cool to see kind of how far they can go with the hero pool, and whether or not John can indeed play something else. But I don't know that we're going to see it, because my hunch is that they're going to play more to their comfort than anything. I think that's reflective of some of the peculiarities we're seeing with the draft as well. Is that we're seeing more kind of like playing towards the comfort.
Well, I don't think you want to be using your first pick to grab like a Warden or a Geist necessarily. Because like, yeah, they can do well in games, but I don't think they can like almost single-handedly carry games, like picking a Wraith as like an initial pick, or picking a Playmaker, obviously before we saw these rescue beams. So I think that's just kind of like, in my opinion, looking at it from the outside, it's that one kind of hole within the melee creep side at the moment, is they're kind of being forced to pick something for John relatively early on, which means it delays other picks for your other teammates.
Which to me really brings up the idea of, could you go first pick and ban Warden and pick Geist? Because does melee creeps not kind of show their hand a little bit when they decide, hey, we have to first pick Geist, but also they've been put on first pick by Valhalla. So no matter what, John can get Warden or Geist immediately. Either way.
Well, we'll see what melee creeps decide to do, because obviously they won, and we often don't think about the team that wins would make any changes, but maybe they will. Okay, no, they're going to take out the Mirage again. It's interesting that they have been targeting Mirage first on the bans, because it does feel like there's a lot that would go above that. Mirage is unique in some respects, but Calico, is also a good split pusher. Like, I don't know if Mirage is as high priority as he used to be.
It's hard for me to really go against that. But on the same note, I feel like Mirage has always been really, really good. And it's hard to ever be like, we don't like this. But also, they're going to make melee creeps do it. They're going to make them first pick Warden. They actually are going with the we hate John strategy that we were speculating on. So our read in this instance perhaps is right. And I think if you're melee creeps, right now you hear John going over voice be like, I need him. Pick him. My precious. Get Warden in. But it's going to give Valhalla any other two picks they want, which I feel like if you're looking to hurt melee creeps. Oh, wait. Saya was complaining more. You gotta take
definitely a better first pick.
In this instance, I do think you go Warden over this, and you probably pick Paradox third if you're looking to avoid mid-stage bans. But if you're looking to make John's life difficult, now's the time. Warden, one of the next two picks, probably Warden Wraith.
Warden Shiv.
Today isn't the day for mercy.
Whoa! You've been wrecked so much today, Zephie. You've been absolutely
but
wrecked
that is also first pick Vindicta is also very North America.
That is so North America.
That is, but surely they grab. I don't know.
I mean, Vindicta's not really in contention, really, is she?
On a meta level, I don't love picking Warden first, but I like it on the... Okay, they are going to do it for the anti-John. So there's still... we were mostly right on the anti-John, just didn't see the first pick Vindicta. Go.
Yeah. Like, I'm fine with first pick Vindicta if Vindicta is as high impact as Shiv or Wraith or etc. But I haven't seen that so far in the games when we've seen Vindicta. Vindicta has actually looked worse has looked worse in this patch than the previous one so far.
No one builds an empire without sacrifice.
Mega's Wraith over to Poshipop once again. Yeah, the Vindicta
ABG on the Shiv.
Shiver Calico. Wouldn't be surprised. The Vindicta, I'm not sure how I feel about the Vindicta, to be honest. I can see how it pairs well with Warden because you can like lock them down to make the last stand hit better. You also do give shred to your team. We didn't see it all in EU, funny enough, if I'm not mistaken.
All right, Shiv still available.
You can go Shiv here, and if you go Shiv, Paradox will get banned. You could go Paradox. If you go Paradox, Shiv will probably get banned.
I feel like Jason's point about the rescue beams being online so much in these games might be the reason why people are deprioritizing Paradox. I think was a really good call out.
Hello,
potentially, but okay. Calico is also available here, so I don't know. I think your melee creeps, you can make the argument to ban the Shiv, which Valhalla will have the ability to pick out first, but you can also make the argument to ban Paradox because I think even though it has been a little bit deprioed, it's still very, very good, and still, even though it wasn't Saya's favorite hero, it was still really important for melee creeps to find ways to get back in the game last game. Like you think back to the swap on Kelvin in the middle, which is basically the biggest turning point you had.
I think the gamble is do you think that they would pick Paradox because they already have the Holiday? I guess would be the gamble. Which, that's I think why I like the Shiv over the Paradox. I think that I like the gamble that they wouldn't go Holiday and Paradox.
Yeah.
Just ban it away though. If melee creeps you want to deny any sort of pick potential, like Bebop is just like, okay, well, that's a free pick that we don't have to worry too much about. I do take it away. Okay, so now Valhalla now with no pick potential unless they do go Bebop, but they can also secure a Lash here and take it away from low main.
Yeah, I mean, Lash may be a menu. I think they also need something extra in terms of frontline. They have Vindicta. Abrams is a very obvious pickup at this point, the run of Vindicta Abrams lane, when you do need more frontline, because generally speaking, teams have been running with 2 to 3 frontline. And you have over Calico, so okay, you're going to go Yamato instead. So that removes the ability of going Abrams. You're prioritizing the Yamato instead. Maybe melee creeps goes Abrams in return. I don't know if I love the Yamato in this spot here, though, I have to say. I mean, it has to be a hero comfort thing.
Yeah, I think so. But just based on what we've seen, we didn't see it once again in the EU, the Yamato.
I say pick up some supports here. Yeah, Kelvin, take that away. You have a Death Ball comp with the Calico Ward and Yamato. Take that away so they can't really hard engage on you if you pop the Frozen Shelter correctly, and they can't use it against you to actually catch out some players. And that does leave open a couple of other picks as well. I mean, I was gonna say it's a world where we see Pocket, but I'm assuming Wraith's gonna be for Poshipop, and we're not gonna see Pocket actually be played by Poshipop, and then maybe Wraith on someone else. But I mean, still Lashes in the cards as well. And there's the extra front line here out of Abrams.
Yeah,
They go. Oh, go ahead.
No, you just think about the power of the picks involved. We've seen better things out of Abrams than Yamato in recent times, and I don't love the Yamato pick coming out of Valhalla here, especially given the fact that it gives melee creeps Abrams, where I don't think melee creeps is necessarily going to go for the Yamato, or the fact that they could have grabbed Kelvin. Come on in. But I guess instead, support-wise, they're going to go more for the Sinclair. And okay, that's actually good because, well, yes and no. I don't think they were at risk of melee creeps picking Sinclair. So even as like a deny pick, it doesn't make sense. It had to be more for Sinclair of their own, where you're still going to be able to audience participate onto the Frozen Shelter. It's okay. I mean, it's okay as a pick on its merits, I suppose.
Maurice and I got your back.
Whoa, he lives!
First Moan Krill of today as well. And I mean, we always talked about the Moan Krill Yamato combo being pretty strong. And so like, but the only thing is you do really have to get active in the early to mid game with the ults. You really have to get the value in then. Otherwise, Moan Krill falls off massively in late game.
I guess a combo in a Frozen Shelter could be good. Then again, I don't know, like if this is their pick, oh my god, they even go Bebop on top of this. John's Bebop. We're going to be treated for the first time in DFN history, John's Bebop, that we always hear about.
I was about to bring up, okay, what's John going to play? And As it turns out, John's hero pool actually does have limits because it is forcing out the Bebop. When Bebop right now has been basically judged by every other team at the moment to not be good. So the strategy of coming in here, where remember how this started. Ban Geist, pick Warden. Very, very anti-John, and it culminates in a last pick Bebop. If there's an X factor that can get Valhalla over the hump here, it may just be that, given the fact that most people do consider Bebop to be very weak at the moment, and the Bebop is only getting picked as a hero pool consideration. That's it.
What do you mean? Bebop has basically a paradoxical swap every 7 seconds, and you don't even have to risk your own life for it. Seems pretty good to me.
I'm still not convinced this is a hero limitation at a melee creeps, but maybe it's just copium. I think maybe they just went Bebop because they feel like they're comfortable enough that they don't need him to show what else he can play necessarily.
To support your argument, it was commonly used as a counter to the Mo and Krill lanes because it's so easy to land hooks on Mo, so you can kind of dominate that lane. And often it was like mid lanes we would see that.
Having this much copium on a broadcast is potentially grounds for channel termination. Just so you know, that is weapons grade copium. I just heard out of Jason, followed by the fall through assist by Dan. To me, this is 100% a hero pool thing where you've taken out the other two John heroes and Bebop is the next best that you have.
I don't think you can't say to me that, like, not you in particular, ZP, but you can't say to me that I can only play Bebop, Warden, or Geist and be on a top team. Like, no. Like, if after 2 months, however long he's been in the team, that's the only 3 heroes he can play, he should be kicked off the team. If you have not
Ido's
been
hero
working,
pool again, Jason? Jason, tell me Ido's hero pool in terms of what he performs.
A ton of heroes beyond like the Yamato pockets.
Yeah. Okay. What was his win rate when not on Yamato pocket?
Yeah, but you're playing against Hydronation who beat like everyone. He's played Abrams, like Calico, Holiday, Lash, Paradox, Pocket, Viscous, Yamato.
He did have a good Abrams game in there at one point.
Yeah, 100% winner on Abrams.
I'll add the Abrams as a third, but he definitely went through a phase where it was Pocket, Yamato, or GG. Like that was a long chapter of the Ido history. That's all I'm saying.
But if you're telling me, like, if you're going to be on the best team in North America right now and you only have 3 heroes, like, I would drop this player in a heartbeat. Unless like what else he's been working on doesn't necessarily fit the comp right now, then okay. But you cannot be a top player in a top team and only have 3 heroes at this point in Deadlock. First months, okay, but like we're a year into the game now, you have to have a deeper hero pool.
Well, I agree. Unless you're trolling.
Imagine you're like on a CS team, right? But like, oh, we can only play Inferno and Dust 2. If we ever have to play, if we ever get those mouse bans, we're screwed. Like, come on, like, how could you ever be a top team and have like only 2 maps you can play, you know?
I'm not well versed enough on CS lore, but I feel like there had to have been a player or two that were in that mold at some point. You know, Dan can confirm one way or another.
There's definitely players that could only do like 1 or 2 things, and it was not
on a top team.
On a top team, and it was not okay. But these are also North American teams, is what comes to my mind.
Oh, well, I said top team. Like, there's no NA top teams. I'm sorry.
Fair.
Well, getting into it lane-wise, Jason, any final thoughts on the lanes before we let you go for a bit?
Let me see really quickly because I actually didn't look. John's gonna be over in the left lane with Holiday. So Saya and John paired together with hooks and lassos and everything you could possibly want to really displace your opponents. I'm gonna look towards that lane just to see the impact John has, not only because he's on Bebop for the first time, but because he also had great impact in that first match on Geist.
All right, so Dan, I kind of agree with Jason. Left-hand lane, definitely going to be a joy to watch here to see how this one pans out. I also think the middle lane is kind of important just because whoever wins that is going to help dictate the course of everything. But AVG, on over here, on the right. Zerbzy, Yamato lane coming on in between Sinclair and Yamato. Not the worst as Saya gets caught.
Yes, BMD left quite weak though. John on the retreat. Also kind of low. BMB still in the lane. Why do you want to...
I was just gonna say it's 2 minutes in. This is where anyone that put channel points in melee creeps gets a little bit of anxiety, even though nothing is really established, but it was like 90 to 10 odds as far as the channel was concerned. So big bias in favor of melee creeps here, Dan.
For a second, there was a 3k difference in the advantage of Valhalla. 2.5 minutes in, that's actually kind of big. Let's come back to a 2k difference now, but that's still actually pretty sizable, to be honest, for this early. Well, with that said, though, we'll see how things could pan out from here on out. And lots of pressure from Valhalla on the left side Guardian. That one's taking quite a lot of chip damage. The right side's taking quite a lot of chip damage as well. And so, like, you know, in terms of the early beginnings here, melee creeps have not had the best start.
You know, are we entering the buff Mo era? In the sense that, I'm not saying give Mo game buffs. I'm just saying, has he just worked out, slimmed down a little bit? Because for as much talk about Mo being real large, he's not gotten hooked in once here so far, and the lane pressure has been unreal.
Well, there's a hook onto the Warden, straight into the tower as well. Big damage, and then goes the Mo to try to go for the support as well, and this is a very dangerous combination. Oh, the melee actually misses, but is it going to be enough to keep the Warden alive? It absolutely is going to be. And you just want to die under the tower at this point and just respawn insta. Fully healthy. You know, they're going to be able to get some extra tower damage. That's a massive, massive pickup. 4k difference. 5k difference in souls. What is happening?
Also, it always feels bad where your main win condition is getting a hook, and then you get a hook, and it just doesn't pan out for you, which may be part of... But, DB, why are you still there? What? What?
I don't know.
Okay, everyone's really low. I cannot, for the life of me, understand. You would call it like, hey, do a tower reset, or go back to base, or just...
Those are two options.
Well, no, the third option was stay in lane and die. We did not consider we did not consider the third option. That's odd.
That is very odd. That's very odd indeed. Well, just trying to make up for it here. Valhalla, they've got that pressure again on this right side tower. The left side tower is almost dead. And it was almost a 5k advantage like a minute ago, and now it's even Stevens, which is honestly just very strange how quickly that happened. Either way, ooh, we get an uppercut there into the barrier, and a little bit of assistance. Is people going to survive? Oh no. Okay, John will go down in deep, but DMB will also fall.
Do you think John feels? Do you think John feels conflicted as he's playing Bebop, but is simultaneously getting thrown back in the spawn by Warden? Like there's been some sort of cosmic betrayal that's going on here, where the main is just getting used against him.
He probably likes it because he's probably like, I know every move a Warden would make. So he's got that deep knowledge.
Also, pretty true. If nothing else, where I imagine you get the same thing where, you know, if Ido's ever up against Pocket, it's just like, well, I know everything you can do. It's too late. I've seen everything. But
yeah,
taking a look at the right-hand side, 28k to 29k, DMB finding Saya, and I mean, aside from the time where they overstayed at low HP, the left-hand lane has still been quite good for Valhalla so far.
It has. It really has. We still remain slightly ahead, and the far right lane too is also looking quite tempting. We'll be going down soon. And in the meantime, we also have Lord M on Mo making his way across to assist that mid lane. So it's a 3v2 in favor of Valhalla in that mid lane. And he's going to go in for that ult. The Mo is going in for the ult on the mid lane. And they're diving in for it. And are they going to find something here? I think he did get the ult, and they traded it out. The kills were traded. Oh no. That's actually more than a trade.
I mean,
That is value.
Sai with the rotation in the middle, actually very, very effective. Nearly gives his life on the final push there, but now taking a look. Remember, this was the early pick Vindicta. Valhalla decided, yep, we're gonna not only go Vindicta, gonna prioritize it early in the draft over the Wraith. So, to me, a little bit of a litmus test on, okay, where's Vindicta actually at right now? I think a lot of people, especially over in EU, would go that as an overdraft, but NA, big fan of Vindicta at the moment.
Yeah, and again, it's something we have to look out for. You know, is the Vindicta going to have the value that is worthy of a first pick, because of everything that you're giving up with that first pick, the opportunity cost. So, you know, we'll try to answer that question towards the as the game progresses. Mo's still in that mid lane at the moment, which is giving a Warden DMB solo on the left lane. And in the meantime, on this right side, again, that tower is so close to going down. Good pressure coming in there from Valhalla. But indeed, we have even more pressure from melee creeps on that mid lane. They're coming in for the gank.
Meanwhile, the combo in and danger for Viscous. Low main down. Lord and M. Right place, right time. Sai right now. A little bit under the gun, half HP. Rotating back into the midst of middle lane. But also, you have to be careful here. Rescue Beam, gonna get him out of assassinate range. Which of course, you have to respect at this point in the game. Meanwhile, action all over the place here, Dan. Off into the jungle. You got Hyper Beam here, out from John. Last stand versus Hyper Beam. And right now, Hyper Beam winning. DMB thrown to the back. The classic John battle. Warden versus Bebop with a little bit of support coming in at the end.
Yeah, John making it look good there. And the game's still really even on the overall souls. But if we look at the objectives, it's of course 2 Guardians that Valhalla have advantage on at the moment. Only that mid Guardian that's remaining here for melee crews, perhaps the most important one. In the meantime, it looks like we do actually have pursuing John. It's a potential fight there on the left side. Maybe trying to get the harassment in. Protecting this in a sacrifice pickup is melee creeps. And once again, DMB making the movement forward. So a lot of threat, I feel like, here from Valhalla. They keep poisoning themselves so that they could potentially go for a gank. And melee creeps are feeling that.
I think something for melee creeps that I worry about pretty heavily right now is that I think their economy allocation is all sorts of messed up right now. I don't love where Pashi Pop is at the moment, but okay, getting the free kill onto Vindicta, who just walks up in lane. Not the worst. Comes up over here. Of course, I say walks up because if it wasn't lasso, but either way. You get served a free kill from the Holiday, and okay, not the worst, but still, you need more farm in the Pashi Pop here as far as the late game goes.
Oh, what a save there. That's crazy. He's absolutely just barely able to survive. Good frozen shelter coming on through to get the protection. Although maybe that's not what you wanted, but melee creeps will take it though. In advantage. 53k to 51. 4 players in this mid position. Valhalla looking like they may want to go for the fight, and with the urn coming up again, we might just have a fight for that. Melee creeps are the ones in position though to grab it, and it looks like they're going to go for it. Might be a challenge though from Valhalla here, ZP.
Valhalla has both side lanes, which should be helpful as far as going where they need to go here. You get both side lanes down. However, as I say that, I mean, it's still melee creeps able to get first control of the urn. And now the question for Valhalla is, do they heavily contest the urn turn in, or do they go and try and get middle Guardian down, fully open up the map? Based on how they're moving, Dan, it does look like they're going for an urn fight, but this is also where you have to be real careful, because this is where Bebop can really get ahead on you, land a good hook, and put melee creeps in a better spot.
Well, all the positioning is there for Valhalla. All around defensively around the drop-off spot. Melee creeps, can they get like a hook or some initiation? Well, it's actually going to be the combo cut comes onto the Bebop there. The cube coming in for the save to keep John alive, and now gets hexed as well. In comes Yamato to find the finishing shots here. This is a good engagement here for Valhalla. They might have more, but that shelter certainly helps to turn the tide ever so slightly here, keeping it more competitive. But melee creeps still dropping players here, down 2. Able to trade down 1, but they are now down 3 melee creeps. They are certainly coming off the worst for wear on this one, and this is this fight is still raging on. John is still out there trying to play off of Sire, but Sire's going to go down.
Oh, and yeah, I mean, they get the urn there, but the amount of kills they give up is ridiculous. And yeah, I mean, the upside there for melee creeps is that you're not falling behind too much from that. But Valhalla is able to neutralize what they get from the urn and get a moment of map control in turn. So, rough game so far from melee creeps, and again, I kind of look at this and wonder who is going to pull them out and carry the game, and at the moment, it's a little bit tough because your most farmed player is Bebop, who, especially on this patch, it's not really what you want. You need to find a way to feed Pashi Pop. He's hungry, he's starving, and is your best bet of carrying the game in the late game, but right now, does not appear to be the case.
Yeah. Oh, and the catch there on. Oh, it's just too easy, isn't it? Just completely deleted there, the Vindicta. That's definitely a problem. Vindicta's. Do you feel like Vindicta is behind, and by how much?
I mean, tell you what, where League is, yeah. I mean, you'd ideally like to be more as Vindicta, but I also think there's a world where they're going out of the League is not trying to compete for farm at the moment. You look at the mouths to feed on the map. League is basically dead set on getting most of the souls from fight interactions at the moment. You're not going to have League go in and heavily take neutral farm away from DMB, from Do, or even Scout at times. So this isn't a game where Vindicta's going to get turbo farmed anyways unless she is killing everyone, in which case it doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see if they're able to find their way back in on some of these fights, Valhalla, and maybe get League up on some farm. We'll see not too far behind overall in the souls. And some posturing there on the mids for melee creeps. And Valhalla make their way across for a potential gank here, finding Poshy Pop actually on the left side lane. There will be some assistance though in the form of AVG on Abrams. And so you've got Valhalla kind of playing that positional game where they're not going in for the kill here. They recognize they can't keep pressing for it. The Sire's come in, he's opened himself up for that combo. The save coming in on top of the roof, and the fight is going all over the place here. And it's hard to say if there's going to be a kill though, because both teams are playing this pretty well on the retreat and disengage.
I mean, how strong is Rescue Beam to lift a 800-pound bull or however much Mo weighs there, where you just see Mo on the ground just immediately end up on the rooftop mid-combo, and yeah, I mean, it's enough to save Saya in the moment, but it is kind of interesting too to have this element of threat to Saya, who's usually one of the most aggressive holidays in the game, have that aggressiveness kind of matched, or at least like kept in check by the fact that you could just get comboed by Mo in these sorts of situations.
Yeah, that's so much of the value of Mo, and I think this is, again, it's one of those things about like maybe why Paradox is less prioritized. Like these rescue beams coming out definitely make those ult initiating impact much less than you would otherwise have them be, because that's going to be a kill most of the time.
Let's take out Bebop.
Another big fight coming here.
You would think. I mean, both teams have ways of initiating on each other here. Melee creeps a little bit further back. Valhalla not really going past the mid line too much. Also, Zerbzy just copied an ult. I don't know if Zerbzy copied in 1-4 and used. But that's going to be a cooldown for a moment. As you just see all the posturing that's going on here, and it's for Urn, and Valhalla is able to grab the Urn pickup, and we'll see if they get chased down. The lasso connects! Lord M getting brought for a ride, and that's one way not to get comboed. Just lasso the combo as Lord M is swiftly dispatched.
Yeah, the battle of the initiators there, definitely going Holiday's direction. And it's kind of a painful thing. I mean, very close again on score at the moment between the two teams. Equal now on objectives as well, as Boshipop picks up that Guardian. However, the Urn is getting sprinted across the map here. And we've got the Warden, it's going to be DMB just pressuring that left side Walker. He's going to get that Walker, and in the meantime, it's a 1v1 there for the Urn. Let's see who's going to be able to win this battle. The Calico versus the Viscous, but there will be help here from DMB, so this should really shift it in favor of Valhalla, as there goes the Urn. It's going to get picked up, and they got a Walker for this as well. At the same time, Valhalla, they've got to defend the right side. They're trying to do so. Do they have enough, though?
I mean, this could work out well for Valhalla if they're able to get a few more kills. Right now, it's Urn for Walker. John, able to punish League. Take a look here. Poshy up on top. Would love to get a few more kills. Sai able to finish off on the Do. And in terms of trades, more kills for melee creeps and a Walker. Gotta like the overall trade here so far. But at the end of it, Valhalla still, it's about a wash as far as souls gained.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, both sides getting a Walker each. Just the Urn there for Valhalla, and slightly ahead here, but look at this in close space. It's the frozen shelter, and 2v2 here in this fight as it continues, and Scout's gonna have that. Valhalla coming out on top there. 5 versus 3 at the moment after those kills.
Ooh. I gotta call him Jason here, and Jason, I have a question for you. Look at the economy allocation now, DMB and Do versus other threats on melee creeps. This just feels like a doomsday clock that gets worse and worse for melee creeps the more this game goes on.
Yeah, I can hear the ticks coming in each second passing as the clock counts down. I mean, DMB, I feel like he's been ahead for most of the game when it's come to Warden because of how much pressure they applied early on against the Holiday Bebop combo. But I still have to kind of wonder, like Pop, he's playing a different angle. He's playing a sharpshooter angle with his items this time. Because I think he wants to play really far away from his opponents because he doesn't want to get closed in on by DMB, by Lord, by Scout, by Do. But I don't know if this whole death ball, I don't know if sharpshooter is going to be enough for him to survive this death ball that can easily just rush straight into him and his team. He has to have a strong front line. And I mean, AVG's been able to catch up. He was really far behind earlier on.
Also, Dan, on issues of economy allocation, I don't know if feeding your Bebop is the play right now, especially given his general level of meta power. Like, John usually plays heroes that do really well with a lot of farm. I don't know if Bebop is that hero right now.
Yeah, I mean, Gung Bebop historically could be pretty good, but yeah, I still though, it doesn't really seem like it's the conventional move. Put it that way. And some base guardians getting taken out there by Valhalla, so they're really having a good time of it. Able to fall back onto so much farm as well. Ooh, John does take down Lee, so that's a nice catch at least for melee crews, but they are falling behind here off of this rejuve.
It's kind of interesting where you look at the overall farm in the game, and on the aggregate, it's still very, very close. And yet, when you look at how the team battles are transpiring, Melee Creeps feels pretty significantly behind at the moment. And it just comes down to how much power do you really have? How is that power going to be expressed on the game? And it just comes down to you'd much rather have a 26k Warden than a 23k Bebop.
Yeah, or put it onto the Wraith as well. Yeah. Wraith is definitely... Wraith feels like the saving grace of melee creeps if they can kind of get pushy pop online. But obviously so far that's not been the case. So that's I think another one that's an interesting thing to discuss. With that said though, Vindicta 18k like fairly far behind. I don't know about the impact there in terms of the DPS. So it is kind of interesting that yeah, DMB is kind of inflated. A lot of the value advantage is inflated on DMB.
Also, buff control, getting vitality, or getting the HP buff on Do actually pretty important. Both buffs going the way of Valhalla. I mean, they are very ready to fight here, should the opportunity come up. And if you're melee creeps right now, you're really looking to Saya. Maybe a little bit to John, but for the most part, I think this is about the time where if Saya doesn't have it, he's about to have Veil Walker. It's where Saya, historically, on Holiday, can get pickoffs and put his team ahead, but usually melee creeps is ahead at this point, Dan, not behind.
Yeah, we got a big engage coming in here. Ooh, Death Slam coming online as well. Or Seismic Slam even.
I'm pretty sure, by the way, and we didn't get a camera view of it, I think Lasso went in onto Do, and Do was able to do Shadow Transformation before it hit. So the Lasso doesn't get anyone here. Shadow Transformation, of course, a longer cooldown than the Lasso. But if you're Valhalla, I mean, you have a moment of time here. You don't have to worry about getting lassoed. Maybe you go for the engage, though down Shadow Transformation is a little bit rough. Here we go, though. They go for the Amato again on top of the roof. 3,000 HP. And no Shadow Transformation. No problem. This is a farm Yamato. Diving on deep. Pashba cut to ribbons. Even in the 1v2, this is a tough, tanky Yamato right now, Dan.
Yeah, that's a huge problem. That Poshibot's starting straight away there. Still in the action here on this Yamato, getting pummeled like crazy. And is, oh my god, not going down, still getting... Okay, finally, Du will get taken out. It took such an effort to do so, though. Are there any other conversions that can possibly be had here by melee creeps as they are fighting back Valhalla? But this fight is starting to sprawl across the map. And we've got melee creeps.
Particularly in the base stand. Like, they went in and they got shrines while that fight was going on. As Yamato was fighting the world was taking down the shrines. So the macro decision here from Valhalla is really paying off and putting melee creeps on the back foot.
That's everything they can do to get back in this one. You got John like fighting valiantly there and will eventually go down. Although overwhelming numbers here for Valhalla as they look to try to take down AVG as well. He's on the run there from Du. I don't know if he's going to be able to get away. In the meantime, Saya also trying to get out of there as well as Rocker. So just full retreat for melee creeps, trying not to give any more kills away. Ooh, it's going to be so difficult to get out. AVG is dead. Finally.
Oh. Okay, telekinesis comes in. Shell transmission popped and turned. Yamaha says, you don't want the smoke. Goes over on the Poshy Pop. Poshy Pop, I think, is able to get away here, but take a look. Shrine is going to be hit. Great reaction here from Do here so far. We might have overstayed. Like, this is actually looking a little bit more perilous. We'll see if Do gets out, but the Yamato play towards the end has really exploded.
Well, Valhalla, they've got themselves like this base camping situation right now where they're just outside. If anyone comes out, they're going to be able to just wreck them. John is one of those people. He's going to be trying to venture out, but it is inadvisable. You can't go anywhere right now if you're melee creeps. And in fact, Valhalla can keep pressing the issue. They can fall back if they want to, but why would they? They are doing so much damage in here. They are just annihilating everyone and everything in the base. And they're looking like they are about to get this second map victory, forcing a third map. That's the territory we're in right now. Coming back from this will be very hard. It's a hook coming on in, but able to actually do a lot of damage before finally getting taken out. So 2 kills in return. But Valhalla, I don't know if there's anything left for them to do here, ZP.
Well, they have to win the game still, is where we're at. And with melee creeps only 8k behind the aggregate, it is not impossible. But again, the part that's really ugly about this game is where the farm has gone on melee creeps, and your most farmed being Viscous and Bebop is not good. It means when you look at the top middle of the game, you are being lied to a little bit in the idea of it's like, oh, it's still close. Is it though? Is it actually with where it's at right now, Dan? And you know, at the moment, I don't think it is.
No, I mean, when we just look at the team fights, the way that the eye test on the team fights, if you ignore the souls, it would appear to be the case that Valhalla like significantly ahead on the souls, much more so than they are. And I think in part because of what you said, as well as the way the synergies have been working for Valhalla. I think Dewey's been doing a really good job on the Yamato. He's a great Yamato player. And D&B obviously having like massive impact on the Warden. Although, see what melee creeps can find here. Yeah, I'll try to find an engagement, but you can see Valhalla, they're able to escape. They kind of recognize what's going on, and they don't get caught. They don't get caught by that lasso.
I don't miss.
Also, melee creeps is effectively playing on last life here. Should they get significantly behind in a team fight, Valhalla, they can just go directly over and end the game. Also, John, you know, fishing for a hook there, not going to find it. The weird thing is that if he had landed that hook, I don't know if the fall through was going to be there anyways, looking at the mini map and where everyone was at.
Yeah, well, the next question that's going to be collected by Valhalla. What will they do with it, though?
Well played.
So going to be a neutral pickup as well. So that's actually pretty awesome at this point. And they're going to make the run across the map. Now, is there an intercept here from melee creeps? This could be an opportunity. You have Bebop. This is a great spot to potentially get a hook engaged, but we'll see what they... In fact, Valhalla looks like they just want to run straight into the pack of melee creeps.
They're thinking about it, they're doing it, and they find Saya. Saya was looking for the pick, and he who picks was picked in on the moment. League on the fall through, so all the threat of the holiday is gone. Full map control over to Valhalla now. And melee creeps is really running out of options to have a decent fight. And now you go for mid-boss. This is the right call, I think, for Valhalla. And melee creeps, we'll see if they have the miracle in them, but this is going to be real difficult to contest.
Okay, they're going to be dropping in for it, though. The mid-boss, there he goes. The rejuve is now falling from the ceiling. We'll see who's going to be able to collect that one. Seismic Slam coming on in here for melee creeps, and there it is, landing down on 3 targets, and that's going to be Valhalla, though, picking it up. Looks like it was League, the Vindicta. I don't know what Vindicta's doing in the pit, but it works. They get the rejuve on lock. 3 players down for both sides, and in fact 4 now down for Valhalla. John incredibly weak. Okay, so 2v2 now for Valhalla and melee creeps here as they battle here, and of course the rejuve team is going to be the one that comes out better with this, and this League that somehow lives, which I honestly have no idea how that happened.
There's something a little bit cheeky Valhalla could do here. They do have this small window where they can go as 5 and try and just roll and end the game. I don't know if they will, but there is like a possibility of going in while the other team is down. But they're not going to go for that here, Dan. I think instead they're just going to go for earn, solidify their advantage, take advantage of the pushed up lanes, giving them the ability to grab jungle and go from there. But there was like a potential timing here where they could have been super aggro, but facing elimination, they decided, no, we're not going to do anything of that sort.
I see Holiday.
Well, they get that earn will be really nice. They're getting the pressure on the
I see Vincent.
left lane.
Let's push yellow.
See what they can find there. Of course, melee creeps have to respect it. The melee creeps, they do have John down still, so you can't get any hook picks. That's like one of the best things here defensively. Is it's kind of a lot easier to get those hooks, to kind of pull the opponents into you, and that's a really nice way to open an engagement. There's that hook. It's gonna miss though. Base Guardian's under threat, and the engage comes on through. Okay, we've got the fake seismic slam there. I mean, all you can connect with is the icy glass of the frozen shelter. That's gonna have to back off there, and there goes Viscous rolling on through. Hello, Viscous, goodbye.
2 down from melee creeps. The front line of Valhalla far stronger here. Now moving forward in onto the patron, and just when you think NA may be wrapped up, Valhalla says we came here to play. Map 3 now on the menu as melee creeps lose map 2. And I gotta say here, Dan, we kind of talked about it beforehand, coming in here saying, what if you targeted John's hero pool? Valhalla comes in, they target John's hero pool, and they create an opportunity now to take it all in a third map. And look, we gotta bring back in Jason. Jason, did anything about this map surprise you?
Surprise, not necessarily. I think it's unfortunate the soul allocation worked out the way it did, because I don't think it was any way intentional for John to actually get so far ahead when it came to souls compared to the rest of his team. I don't think they intentionally fed him a lot of this farm. It just ended up being that way. I know AVG fell behind earlier on, so they had to give him a soul lane to catch up so he could still be a threat. Posh they needed to feed forward too. I think maybe a lot of it just came down to deaths. Let me actually quickly check how many deaths Posh popped out. He only had 4 deaths, so it wasn't like crazy amount, but honestly it was just kind of really well played overall. That the whole left lane of DMB, Lord, and them really put the pain against melee creeps, and there was really not an easy recovery from that. Like Sai got set behind. I'm actually kind of surprised they paired the Bebop and Holiday together, to be honest, in a lane. I thought it would be better to maybe split them up to look for some picks maybe in some of these other lanes. But you know what, it's not a map 3 curse if I intended it to be this way. You've had too many 2-0s lately here in DFN, and I just have to, you know, punish Knock by him wanting to have an early night. I'm like, no man, we want some good Deadlock action. That's why we have
Jason,
a 3 map in EU and an A.
That's not how curses work. You can't, you have to actually mean what you say for it to do a curse. You can't do this reverse psychology, just tricking the universe that you actually were going for the reverse outcome. Does not
So
work
if like
that
a
way.
witch or something puts a curse on you, they have to say the opposite of what they intend, or like how does that work then, ZP?
No.
Who says I'm not a witch?
You're completely warping the idea of a curse. But we're in the highlights, and this may have been the tail of the game in some respects here, where Bebop gets the hook and still does not work out the way this lane happens. And you take a look here, just barely living his DMB, bouncing back and forth, going, Mo, shield me from harm. And, you know, as we took a look at this here, Dan, compositionally, Valhalla's comp just seemingly works better on multiple different levels.
Yeah, and it is interesting too, because you could have had a better version of it as well. Because again, you know, we saw it worked in a lot of respects, right? And I think that's because, you know, Scout played really well, Juve played really well. I think Lord and them did, you know, exactly what you need to do on the Mo. DMB got really far ahead. I think the support from Zebsy was good also. I think the Vindicta pick, it's so funny that was the #1 pick again. We said that I think it would be fair to scrutinize that one because it's your first pick, and it didn't really get like that much value. I feel like you could have had a lot of other, you know, potential, you know, heroes in place of that, and you probably would have had an even stronger game from Valhalla. But with that said, your lead did a good job in his role, and of course it just all came together perfectly, and all the team fights looked just so dominant despite no soul differential, which I don't know when I've ever seen a game precisely like that. I don't know that I have in DFN.
One thing I'll say going into this too is that it's a little bit interesting. Well, actually, let's go to stats to see if this goes on. Yeah, I mean, what DMB was able to do in Horn was really good, but also I think these stats, to the Vindicta point, you might look and go, well, didn't the Vindicta get value? I do think there's something to be said about the concept of not everyone should get farm in a game of Deadlock. And I think the upside about Vindicta is that you get a character that has a lot of power in the early to mid game. Even if you're not going out of the way to consume additional amounts of farm, you could still get really farmed if you're able to get kills. But when you went into this, the idea here was that League would not be competing with farm with DMB and Do, and would be saying, okay, you guys get it. Evidence here, take a look at the soul breakdown. Anyone seen any neutrals here for League? No, because League was not going for neutrals the entire game. And I think some people just kind of within a team need to take the role of, I am team fighting, I am not grabbing the jungle. The jungle is going to go to the people that will carry the game. And to me, as I look at this here, Jason, Valhalla did an exceptional job of really managing who was getting the souls on their team.
You know, I might just give everything to DMB and Do, right?
Yeah,
because that's what it felt like they did. Just give it to those two players. That's why I'm not a big fan of seeing like teams run like 3 kind of carries, because you can't. There's not enough money and souls in the map to feed up 3 carries properly, unless you actually like are on a killing spree. And even at that point, you don't even need to feed the farm over. You can just go hold W and get the win. And then you look at, you know, for melee creeps, like Posh Pop is definitely one person they want to feed it over to because it's Wraith. And the other one, I think there's a lot of questions about like who would be the second person you'd want to feed. I would obviously say Average over, you know, John in this case, just because of Abrams versus Bebop. Really want the Bebop just for the hooks, not necessarily the damage he can put out. Though he did put out, you know, a decent 31,000. But considering you've been fed, you know, a good amount of souls to your from your team, you better be putting up some good damage. But he was a part of like 19 of their kills, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, and I mean, John's performance on the Bebop wasn't bad in terms of the stats in some respects. You know, if you look at the damage and able to get those kills and stuff, but it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. I don't know if it was a hero pool thing or what exactly. I think it's hard to say in North America definitively, because the thinking around the prioritization is very different. For example, Vindicta was really popular pre-patch, as was Bebop. As was Mo, but these are 3 that we've seen fall off in EU enormously, and so it might just be that there is less of a quick response in North America on some of those prioritizations.
You know, as I'm looking at this too, thinking about the soul allocation, I just wonder here, when you look at who is able to grab the jungle for melee creeps, do you need a Bebop eating that amount of neutral farm? I feel like the answer is no for what you want to achieve in the game. And I don't know if melee creeps is gonna be able to adapt to that in time, but if you're Valhalla, I do think you kind of keep hitting this angle. It worked for you to do a draft that clearly went out of its way to target John. The only way around this for melee creeps is that, I think if you're melee creeps, even though you have your pick of first or second pick, and even though teams have been valuing second pick as the higher value pick, I think for melee creeps, you defy that in the next game, and you actually take first willingly. And then rather than going out of your way to make sure Saya gets the holiday, you ensure that you get either Warden or Geist for John. That is the adaptation I would do for melee creeps based on the strategy that Valhalla just did, which in the end was very effective.
Or the other option, John shows the other heroes he's been secretly working on that we haven't seen in DFN. But that's probably not happening tonight. Or is it? I don't know.
Nice
Dan,
one.
It's 5 a.m. here. It's getting a little bit loopy, you know.
Oh,
Dan,
yeah.
as Jason loses his hold on reality, any final thoughts before you have the break?
I don't think so. I think you know, we've said a lot. I think melee creeps are going to go into the next one with a draft that's maybe a little bit more helpful for them. And you know, this is like what the point of the draft system as we go through a best of 3. So that's the main thing that we're looking to see as a team that lost, is an adjustment to their draft. And I think they're still the better team overall, and they should be fine.
All right, well, this is Deadlock Fight Night number 27, and we are going the distance here today. Final map coming up soon here in North America. Heading over to 3, the longest DFN possible, which means you won't want to miss the finish here in just a few minutes. It's been a long time since we've had a max length Deadlock Fight Night game. And of course, it would happen here on number 27, presented by Intel. 3 maps in the finals for EU, 3 maps in the finals here for North America. It is the most Deadlock you can get. 8 maps total on the day. We're here. It's EP. It's Jason. It's Dan. And Jason, has a weakness been found now for melee creeps and how to draft against them?
No. I will die on this hill. I will not allow you to give this John slander about him only being able to play 2 heroes. Well, you can say 2 now after the Bebop play right there. He has more to the pool. I know it for a fact. And by fact, I mean that's just what I believe. But if he doesn't, then man, I'm no offense to John, but he's got to be kicked from melee creeps.
That's hard. So they've won for multiple weeks in a row, and they suffer 1 loss, and you're ready to kick people. Congratulations. You can now be the manager of Hydra Nation.
That's
Dan,
not even close to what I said. I said also, if he doesn't have a depot hero pool, if he hasn't been actively practicing anything, then he needs to be kicked. But
also, Quig is not here, and he was credited with the winning ways.
That's also true.
So I feel like that's a confounding variable.
Oh man, I want to say what happened, but I shouldn't. But I want to say it.
Why do you keep saying that?
Well, why do you keep torturing yourself, really?
Everyone hates you so much for that. It's like
no one hates me.
If I'm like, oh man, I just got this massive secret, you would not believe this. I just can't tell you.
Cool.
If I'm the person that like says that no one likes that person.
It's not a secret if you tell, right?
Right, but you don't have to tell people that you know the secret.
Exactly, that's kind of the point. Because now when people know that you have a secret.
Then what's the fun of having a secret if you can't tell people you have a secret?
You can't like leverage it into your own gain.
The draft is underway. Also, they have given first pick over to Valhalla. So, interestingly enough, Valhalla comes in here and they ban the Calico. So they've left open both the Geist and the Warden. And they could pick one of the 2 here on their first pick. Maybe they go Warden, maybe they go Geist, but either way, it's not going to be a repeat because John will be able to get one of those 2 heroes for sure. And with the Geist being first picked, guess what? Warden's going to be one of the 2 coming in next. My guess with what Melee Creeps likes to predict may just be Warden Holiday.
You know what? Melee Creeps, don't do it. Don't pick Warden your first 2 picks. Don't pick him at all, actually. Just show him what you got. Show a little extra of what John has to offer for Melee Creeps. Don't get baited into this Warden pick.
Duty bound to fight.
They got baited into the Warden pick.
Well, Jason, thoughts?
This is what I don't get about being like a Warden main. Is like he's not particularly hard or technical as a hero. He's very basic.
Today is
You've just gone into Warden slander, but also Vindicta is going to be picked up.
Am I wrong though? About
think
Warden, like technically wise, like he's not the most technical hero in the game. It's just about your ultimate.
It's pretty aim dependent still. Like, I mean, bullet accuracy varies pretty widely between like an Eternus Warden and someone in a lower skill ranks. And I think like knowing your positioning of like right place, right time is really important when you see some of the ghastly areas that people try to do last stand. But the early Vindicta is giving up Wraith and also potentially Holiday, where you think about Valhalla. They were willing to ban Holiday early back on map 1 and trying to take away strengths of melee creeps and play more towards a team rather than meta. Dan, do they come in here and rip away the Holiday?
I mean, it's a great choice. I mean, there are a lot of great choices left on the board as well, you know, with the show still being out there. But yeah, this is super strong. The initiation now, it just kind of pales in comparison as to what you could throw in there. Again, we already talked about how Paradox is definitely worse right now, based on all of the rescue beams that get purchased. And so like, and the Vindicta pick out of Melee Creeps, I've got to say, I'm super curious why the prior here is still high for NA, because it just doesn't seem to have the impact based on the games we've seen so far.
I want to say it might slightly be due to the fact that there's a huge overlap in like Rocker and AVG's hero pool. Because he's technically subbing for them, I think, in this game. Even though I saw Ido in the chat and he's doing a watch party. But I thought Ido would be normally like their 6th player of the roster and Rocker was a sub. But maybe it's just due to overlap, so they're having to like play around his pool a little bit to facilitate that.
That was Savannah's fault.
I'm looking at this. I'm expecting a Shiv ban to come in here. I think a Shiv ban probably makes a lot of sense. I think Melee Creeps would be looking to pick up Shiv off here, like off the
Yeah.
mid-stage bans, if it is not taken away. They desperately need more frontline, especially with Geist being out of it. They could go Abrams, for sure.
I don't know though, because if you go Shiv, then you need to. I mean, so let's just assume that the Shiv was let through, and they pick Shiv. But then then there's like 3 heroes that need all the farm. Your Warden, your Shiv, and then whatever Poshipop's gonna play, which is like very difficult to do in high level Deadlock. So I'm not sure if. I mean, I guess he's just there for the executes anyways. Doesn't necessarily need a ton of farm. But the way AVG plays, he still gets a bit of farm before engaging in some of these fights.
So we'll see what they end up picking here. My guess would be Abram. Okay. Oh, Yamato. Okay. I mean, NA is just valuing Yamato way higher.
Yeah.
And also with what Do did, this might put Valhalla onto Pocket, because Do plays a really strong Yamato and a really strong Pocket. And I think of the two, you'd rather put Do over onto the Pocket. So I think in terms of hero pool considerations for Valhalla, we've been focused more about the melee creeps anti-hero target. Valhalla might feel pressured to grab Pocket in the next 2 picks on their side. So, like, they've picked up the Kelvin, which makes sense. Just in good supports that are still available. Do they team it up with the Pocket for Do? I think it is a very non-zero possibility.
You asked me, ZP, do I see any hole in the melee creep side? And actually, now that I think about it, I think we do. They don't have that, like, that standard support player who plays Kelvin, who plays Ivy, like Quig does. Like, I don't think Rocker could just slot into that role right off the bat. And we've seen like those individual supports be such a big deciding factor of how these games play out. So I think that hole is actually going to be that at the moment for the team that they need to develop in the future.
Lash is a nice annoyance for the Vindicta though. I gotta say, that's always super painful to play against. I like Valhalla's draft so much more than melee creeps right now. Pocket comes out though.
The Poshipop Pocket.
Not only that, but I do think this may have been directed at Do, because you look at Valhalla's lineup, I think they thought maybe they could have last picked the Pocket in this draft.
Yeah.
Like, I may be wrong, but I don't think Do was going to play any of the heroes that are picked here so far. I mean, it's a possibility, but maybe they would have put Do. Maybe Do's going to be playing the Geist in terms of frontline, but they still needed something else that is frontline-esque. I think at this point, if they're not going to go something like the Pocket, maybe they end with the Abrams. I don't know. It's actually pretty wide open for Valhalla. I have no strong opinions at this point, Dan.
I think Abrams. I think they just need an extra bit of frontline to kind of go with it. I don't know. How do you feel about it, Jason?
I don't feel like they necessarily need another frontliner, considering there's not a lot of frontliners on melee creep side.
Maurice and I got your back.
We'll go with the Mo. Okay.
Interesting. I mean, Mo and the Holiday is a potentially like hyper aggressive, like, you know, jungle ganking combo that's very, very annoying to play against.
So many pick potentials too. Combo, the lasso, the death slam. Like if I'm ignoring teams, like team names in here, I would definitely give Valhalla like the stronger comp. Like this is definitely a more suited comp that I'd be a big fan of supporting in this match. But something about Poshipop on Pocket, ABG back on Yamato, like, and then John on Warden. It's still a tough one, even if you have like the ideal comp against them.
Also, this is wild right now. I'm just looking at the channel point odds. The chat is overwhelmingly in favor of Valhalla. The chat is believing we are going to see a new champion right now. At 81% for Valhalla to a mere 19% for melee creeps. I don't know, like, you know, how you handle your channel points is on you, but those feel like really good odds for melee creeps, who I do not think are necessarily out of this at all, as much as I do like the Valhalla draft. That's all I gotta say.
I feel like it's a pretty good shout. I think it's a pretty good shout, especially after we saw the last match. I mean, I guess there's a bit more, maybe in some respects, for melee creeps to play with, but I don't know. I feel like the synergies here for Valhalla are actually pretty sick. If they get good early lanes, and so they get the initiative, as we saw in the previous game, and they get to roam, between the Holiday lassos, the Mo and Krill combos, you know, the support from Kelvin and the heals, in addition to like the survivability of Lady Geist, the long range potential from Wraith damage, like Lash has so many ways to get in there too. I just feel like it synergizes so well, and it's gonna be so annoying. And I don't see that synergy really as present for melee creeps with what they have.
Jason, your thoughts before we get in the game?
I think Low Main had a very good Viscous game last game as well. Even though they lost, they had some really good cubes, like really like peak performance, peak timings, rescue being built up for him as well.
Big cubes.
I'd like to see him on more of a playmaker though, to be honest. Like he was always really explosive. Thinking back to like his Lash play, even his Vindicta, thinking back to like the Woman Bombshell. But definitely like a solid person to have on the team here in the slot that they currently have him on. But final thoughts? Yeah, man, I don't know. This is gonna be tough. I think this comes down to, are you kidding me?
No, it's a pause and spawn. This
No,
is
but
where we're at right now.
Don't you got bottles next to you guys?
No, it's NA, and also this would have to happen when some of our production team is like, wow, it's a really long day, etc. It wouldn't be an NA day without Low2 just getting a little bit trolled by the bathroom. It's how it has to be.
I'm messaging AVG to make sure we have like a nice 30-minute pause in this game to really keep Low2 awake.
They were quick this time around. It wasn't that long of a pause, so the game gets to start. We get a little cinematic spin in the spawn room. We'll see how this one pans out, where it's going to be DMB on the Wraith this time around. Not, of course, in the front line, due onto the Geist. So maybe Pocket wasn't really a possibility anyways, if they're going to be doing that to begin with.
This
And what's on your mind?
This one I feel cool like EU.
Yeah, all these pauses. A little bit on brand with AVG coming in a pause. I can't repeat what Low2 just said, but I'll only tell you he is very happy with our players and sees no problems with them whatsoever. But Jason, any thoughts on the lanes here as they come into focus?
I don't think Lord and M and DMB are going to have such an easy time this time as they're paired together in middle up against the Yamato and the Vindicta. I mean, they definitely snowballed their lane quite heavily because of the Holiday and the Bebop. But I think AVG on the Yamato is going to definitely keep him in check, at least in particular DMB in this lane.
Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing the Mo have a good game here, because again, we're not seeing so much of the Mo. But yeah, the Mo Wraith is definitely not a bad lane. It's that Vindicta Yamato here in mid as well, so potentially kind of annoying on the damage output front. We know Mo can tank. I mean, I think the Geist Kelvin lane will be pretty interesting as well. Yeah, so there's a lot to look forward to, I think, here in this matchup here, ZP. But just the way this series has been reset gives me some confidence for Valhalla. But hold on. The Mo is under fire at the moment, and it's too easy there. It's too easy for the Yamato to get the finishing damage. That's a problem. If this lane is as dominant as that, that's a problem.
Particularly the fact that you have your Wraith in this lane, and you don't want your Wraith of all heroes to be falling ultra far behind in the beginning. That said, you look at other factors there, you're able to get a good health trade onto Yamato. It's not the end of the world. Mo's going to be right back on in. You don't lose massive amounts of lane control the way you would if it was just a fully clean pickoff. So they have the opportunity to rebound in middle.
I do wonder... Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to AK to AK across the board. No massive difference between the two teams just yet.
Oh, okay, all right. He crashed. Lol, 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 lol.
I'm a fan of this. I can see, that one member of our production just slowly losing sanity with each successive pause.
Is that a hug? No.
To which production just responded. Dan, production has responded to me saying one, all in caps, question mark. So I suppose it may be more than one.
Well, can I retrieve my train of thought? Pre-pause. The answer is no. The answer is no. The answer is absolutely not. Oh wait, hang on, I got it. That was all planned. So my sense is that having the Holiday with the Wraith would have been pretty nice, because you would have guaranteed Wraith having like a good lane, and it's a lot of damage output on a lane like that. Because I was just wondering what you think, if there was like a better, more optimized lane setups that you could potentially have, or if we're just being nitpicky to have that combo right now.
No, I think Holiday Wraith would be better for the Wraith, but the alternative may have been way worse for the Lash. It's probably the thought process. Blooming though. Finding Do not having the success on Geist that John did a bit ago. Fisticuffs though. And be finding Pop in turn. Zerbsy pretty low right now here for Valhalla. Trying to find a way out. Puddle Punch though, off to the side. Kelvin in danger. Secondary fire gonna miss here, but the splatter will not. Zerbsy taken on down, and melee creeps finding some life here across the game. A big reversal from just one map ago. And what? How? That's ridiculous.
I love it.
That the flying strike actually hit.
Don't ever change this, Valve, please. I know you're watching these games. You guys are crazy, but do not change that. It's the kind of shenanigans I like in a game, CP. It's like how people like Bethesda games because of just the bugs, because of the poor coding. They're like, oh, this coding sucks, but look at these amazing bugs.
And in this case, I don't think it's necessarily poor coding, but just it's coded to where it's like, 1 pixel of you. Oh, wow. Okay. Another pause. Well, a little bit more time on the Amato note would just be, I think you only need a pixel showing for the briefest of moments while spamming the button, and you will go to your target. So, maybe there's a world where it could be coded to be, a slightly bigger percentage of the hero needs to be available.
Well, the problem is you're trying to change this EP, and I distinctly requested no changes. So
that is true.
I don't really appreciate this line of dialogue, and I want you to take it back.
If anything, you're on the other end of just Yamato should just randomly be able to warp through space and time.
Absolutely.
Oh!
Well, okay, he's dead. All right, okay. We've got to get our bearings again after these pauses. Deadlock, there's so much happening in a game of Deadlock. There's sometimes, like, when you get these pauses, it's really hard. Like, it feels like you get reset yourself. I was like, okay, what's happening?
I do wonder if that somehow interrupted the momentum for League, because that was right on the edge of getting out of the Binding Word. My response is probably not, but it's also not 0% that the pause may have caused getting caught at the end. Either way, melee creeps a bit ahead right now. Saya on the Paradox going in for the swap. Look at the take down his one eternal love in Holiday on the other side. Scout, though, able to shake the pressure and leave for now. John went in even deeper with the last stand. Not going to full dive past the Guardian, however.
Yeah, so just looking at the soul allocation, you got low main on the Viscous is just pumping those souls at the moment, leading the server for 4.7k. Anytime, okay, a lot of damage coming in here on the mids, onto the Wraith. Gotta be cautious. Saya goes down on the Paradox on the right side lane as well. So that's the Holiday lane for Valhalla. Scout left pretty weak, but now that we are in the left lane, this is the 2v2 against Kelvin Geist. Definitely, I think, a hard combo to kill. That's for sure. See if they can figure that out. But we're back on the right lane again here. And this has been very action-packed, this lane. Oh, Lash is not going to survive that. League is going to go down again.
John surviving there is a little bit ridiculous, and maybe due to the new barrier, which is in a pretty good spot. Ooh, go for the assassinate, not quite going to connect. Into the air goes Rocker, looking for another shot. This time on Lord NM, does connect. The fall through across the map there for melee creeps. 30k to 27k, but it feels further gone than that so far.
Yeah, it does a little bit, but we'll see if there's recovery here for Valhalla. So I still believe in their mid game, as long as they don't fall too far behind the objectives. But so far, no objectives taken for anybody. We've got another paradoxical swap there, and that's gonna League has gone down 3 times now, I think, just without getting anything. So League is going to be getting kind of behind. You can see that 4.2k souls stuck on that. Oh my god, off the top. There it is. Scout coming in the lasso and the barrels as well. So no fun from those kegs.
Well, a little bit of fun from Scout. Meanwhile, up in the air, pressure on to DMB in the back. DMB probably gonna have to go back for the full heal, or at the very least, avoid Vindicta's line of sight for a little bit. Middle Guardian, though, should be down. Will be the first Guardian down of the game. Run away the melee creeps, getting the souls, getting map control right on after. And also, we haven't really talked too much about income allocation, but here comes John. Going in for the last stand, in off the zip line, chasing down League. Could be another death here from League, who, as you called out, Dan, not been having the easiest game.
Yeah, that's 4 in a row. Only getting about 300 souls in the last like couple of minutes or something. Getting really far behind now due to these successive deaths. So that is a problem, but it's mounting. And melee creeps, you know, their tower on this lane has got no HP, but it's still up, which is not what you can say for this Guardian in a moment. So kind of cleaning house and taking all these Guardians. Well, hold on. Okay, League back in there with the Death Slam. Able to catch some players onto the tower, but that tower's going to go down. And just look at this. Valhalla are trying to take all these kills. They lost the tower, but can they take all the kills and finish off the tower of melee creeps? That would be a great way to recover from this scenario. Lord of M does take down one. So with the Guardian, is there another opportunity? It looks like everyone else has managed to retreat there on the melee creep side, but that's certainly a good way to respond.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big turnabout. Not only do they get the revenge kills as the Guardian goes down, but they're able to take the momentum from that, go in and get the Guardian down in turn, which is already low. So, I mean, it keeps Valhalla in the game for sure. I just think at this point, they do have to start wondering, okay, how do you start neutralizing some of the threats that are ahead on the other side? Because they may be getting a taste of their own medicine, where it was just last map that Valhalla won off a turbo-fed Warden Yamato. Take a look at the allocation right now. AVG is looking absolutely massive at the moment, Dan. 9.1K, way ahead of the average for the game, ahead of everyone on Valhalla, and will be a problem if nothing is done to stop it sooner rather than later.
Oh yeah, massive problem. Talked about soul allocation before. That's like the one hero you really want to beef up. And it creeps on the defense here on the left side. With that said, 4 players from Valhalla could potentially put the aggression on. You can see the defensive posturing there. The melee creeps are kind of like wondering, what's up, guys? Oh, Lee's gonna get found again by the absolute wrong person. There's the flying strike coming on through, and this is going to be a lot of damage coming in. I don't know if it's okay. Well, it's like it looks like, thanks to the guy Steph, able to potentially create problems here. And in fact, they managed to turn it around on AVG. That's an insanely huge kill to get.
Meanwhile, take a look at Valhalla, still looking for more pressure. Pashi Pop getting chased on down. The Mo relentlessly following. Be forcing Pashi out for a bit. Pashi actually looking for re-engage. Meanwhile, Rocker under the gun right now, forced back over to the safety of the shop. And one big difference, I think, for Valhalla in their favor relative to the map we just saw, it was an unchecked Yamato Warden, not Versageist. In this case, you have Do, which can limit the amount that either can dive just from the threat of swap at times.
Whoa, that urn's gonna get stolen away. Okay. We've got a big tether coming on through. Okay, also the crow's doing quite nicely as well. Dominance in the skies there from the Vindicta. One of them trying to somehow juke this. Doesn't seem possible. In the meantime, urn it's been stolen away. It is being run away. However, 2 players on melee creeps on the right side. They might prove problematic in the delivery of this urn.
I think Valhalla may just, rather than going for the team fight, this may be one of those, we're going to use Frozen Shelter to secure urn turn-in type of situations. And they have the threat of Death Slam on top of it too. I think if you're melee creeps here, rather than going for the full contest, there's a world where you just may be more interested in going for objectives instead. But you look at how they're positioned right now, Dan, it does look like they want the fight.
Yeah, they're definitely looking for melee creeps. Valhalla, though, really keeping out. What is the play there for them? Still 2 on the right side tower, Valhalla, to be able to just protect that walker. And melee creeps are starting to get ever so slightly pushed up towards that walker. They're going to start putting some damage and pressure on that in a second. As soon as they see any players from Valhalla on the map, on the left side, they're surely just going to shove into that walker.
I think melee creeps is okay with the option select here of just slamming the right lane, going for walker, and then also using that to prevent the Urn turn-in, but they're a little bit far back from the Walker. It's early enough in the game that the threat onto the Walker isn't as big as it normally would be. And this is really just being used as an excuse to get DMB farm on the left-hand side so far.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, they're just not interested in farming.
Yeah, I felt like the tell to go for it was when you saw the two Valhalla players on the minimap on the left lane, but Melee Creeps actually did indeed disengage. So they've given up some value for free there, and you've got the position being read by Valhalla that are still looking to deposit the urn, and they've got a better scenario than ever because now their Mo is there, they also who has combo online. We've also got Scout there with Lasso online, so lots of opportunities to start the fight for Valhalla.
DMB getting pressured pretty heavily by Lomane. Lomane actually even in farm, so you got Viscous actually checking DMB, where presumably the point of this is to get DMB farmed, because between the two, you'd rather the DMB have farm over the Viscous, but Lomane fighting pretty evenly over on the left-hand side. Meanwhile, things are heating up here on the right. John last stand, diving on in. Two already down here from Valhalla. The Urn, though, is going to be taken away by Kelvin, not at risk, so it's 2 kills, no Urn control, as the rest of Melee Creeps is still just kind of locked at the Urn positioning here.
Yeah, that was both the initiators going down there. But given that, as you said, it's not been converted into much more just yet, this is actually working out for Valhalla, you'd feel. Given the fact that indeed DMB's caught up quite well, I'd say. And finally, I think they'll do anything about that. DMB's still been farming in perpetuity without really any harassment at all. And this Urn, it feels like Melee Creeps almost overreacted at this point.
Well, Melee Creeps hasn't really gone behind in this case, and they have been able to funnel a reasonable amount of the farm over the AVG. DMB maybe has gotten more of the overall farm and where it's at. It's hard to say it's been bad for Melee Creeps per se, but they are kind of stuck holding more there just because of the threat of Frozen Shelter to secure. But Scout in some danger right now, getting dove on by Poshipop. Poshipop leaves it at that, though, doesn't go for the last little bit of dive. And the holding pattern kind of continues, Dan.
Although the right side Walker did take some licks there as well from the Warden and the Paradox, they're going to be forced back because a response has been created for the defense for Valhalla. And they at the same time Valhalla have this push on the left side too, and they're going to get the pick there onto low main. So that's actually potential split push pressure that they could go for now. They are going to be having to deal with those creeps on the in front of the Walker first. This is an interesting spot in terms of the macro for Valhalla. They have options.
Also, the Urn fully resets, so no longer in control of Valhalla. It's 15 minutes, so that Urn gets timed out entirely. And the spot that Melee Creeps was contesting the entire time, the turn-in, becomes a new pickup point, and they get control of the Urn. So it sets us up for a perhaps more impactful Urn fight on the opposite side of the map. Just conditions very changed.
Yeah, Valhalla did just clear that lane on the left side, so they do have visibility there. But they don't seem that interested in positioning for a defense on it, which is kind of interesting at this point. Are they looking to give it up? You never want to give up something like that for free. You always want to take something back, but no, it looks like they are coming in to this fight now.
They're coming on over, they have Death Slam, and I mean, this is kind of an awkward spot for Melee Creeps to fight, because there are ways things do well, but oh, you get the early swap here on to Zerbzy. Zerbzy in danger. They have to drop Frozen Shelter way earlier than they like. They drop it to save themselves, and meanwhile, Scout gets picked off in the back. This fight looking awful for Valhalla here thus far. Poshipop dives on in, off the swap on the Kelvin. The rest of Melee Creeps strike, and 3 down for Valhalla. Should be the Urn turn for Melee Creeps as well, who are now looking very good.
Yeah, patience really paying off there. Might be a couple extras. There we go. Zerbzy down. Might also be able to get the DMB. I think the TP was used though, so able to get out of dodge for now. And this Walker's absolutely going down. And interestingly, this is a small bit of value potentially gained by League. He's taking down the mid Guardian, so that's going to go and be defunct now, and is able to escape as well. So able to get at least something. But it's a 15k difference now. Or 17k.
Now that the longest game of Earn Tag has concluded, maybe a good time to bring in Jason and go, Jason, you're watching the back and forth of the Earn, DMB getting farm, and neither team wanting to commit for a very long time. Finally, it concludes with the second Earn. Where are you at right now in evaluating the game?
Yeah, I mean, I think it allowed DMB to catch up in souls quite a bit after having a tough time in lane. But the fact is, AVG was still farming in that mid lane while all this was happening. It's just kind of about like allocating your resources properly in the situations, not overstacking some lanes so you can maximize the amount of souls that you get. I think if Lomane didn't get caught on that left lane, things might have been able to play differently because we had the lane pushed all the way up to the Walker. He bought a lot of time. But I know you like to talk about like resource allocation. Lomane's currently sitting in second in souls for the side of melee creeps. But Poshipop sitting at 18k right behind that. And then John at 17. I mean, all in all, melee creeps pretty well balanced across the board here. It comes down to these catches, and it actually might be AVG being the one being caught.
Well, AVG feeling, okay, I could be in danger, need to drop the Shadow Transformation, and the rest of Valhalla just leaving. Overall, probably happy with that. And now this is a situation where if you're Valhalla, you would love to take a fight with this ult being down in the next moment if you could. But they're spread out around the map to the point that doesn't appear like it's going to be the case, as once more, we enter the pause, where it's been a long day of Deadlock to begin with. But we're deciding to add in a little bit more with some extra pauses, breaking what could be the NA pause record. Still nowhere close to the EU pause record, Dan.
Impossible. Impossible to achieve. Well, I wonder what the return could look like for Valhalla here. I mean, it seems like they are unable to really get the initiations. Because I don't think we're really seeing that value with the Holiday or Mo initiations in particular. They've been shut down there quite a few times, and without that value, that's a lot of the value obviously that you get from a Mo and a Holiday. And as we get later into the game, I feel like the Mo loses more value. But as I say all of that, we do get the engagement. This is exactly the target you want Mo to be able to get on top of. But the Cube plus the Rescue Beam is gonna make quick work of that play and save AVG.
Not only save AVG, but heal up the Amato. AVG able to get fully healed up, drops back on in, still very farmed and threat, finds Kelvin for the execute right on after. So, not the easiest picks to have, especially with Lomane just being full on support Viscous. At the moment, you just see this cube fly away. It's like, he's gonna be fine.
The Rescue Beams seem so good. So good against these initiators. Some forward pressure from Poshipop. Everyone seems really comfortable in melee creeps right now, and you're starting to see like a pretty desperate spread of souls amongst the players. The fact that Zubsy's on 12k and the lowest player on melee creeps is 18k, but the average is like 21, 22k. That's a big problem.
On the same note, I think if you had to have someone be low, you'd probably want the Kelvin to be low. And Do and DMB are still pretty big threats. I don't think this one is over here just yet, even though melee creeps are working at a pretty big advantage. And I feel like as they go for Earn Turn here, the impetus is on Valhalla to utilize your Holiday Mo and get a pick off before melee creeps gets there cleanly. You don't want to go into a clean 6v6 when you're running a Holiday Mo comp. Your goal is to make the fight uneven before it really begins.
There's that combo coming into play. Unable to get anything off of it though. You need all the teammates there focus firing that player. And then we'll get the earn. But with that said, we'll hit the Death Slam up on high from League. But it's going to be John Lomane to get the frags there on behalf of melee creeps, as they are up now 6 against 4 players. In fact, it's going to be a wipe very soon because Valhalla's players are so low trying to survive here. But it's looking very difficult indeed. It's all that Valhalla can do to just steal the earn away. And prevent that from going.
They do steal the earn away, which means they don't walk away with nothing but 3 kills for earn control. Not an earn turn in, but just control of the earn. And potentially giving up 2 walkers right after. Look, I'm not much of a businessman, but that seems like a poor trade to me, Dan.
Not ideal. Not ideal. It's starting to get worse. Fight continues, and it looks too easy, too clean. Melee creeps right now, just outnumbering their opponents. Jason, is there any hope?
There's always hope, Dan. With the way melee creeps, though, maybe not so much. They're definitely looking like really. I feel like they like kind of woke up after the last game. They're like, okay, guys, let's maybe focus in on this one and close things out. They've obviously been punishing Valhalla quite, I'd say, well when it comes to these urns being taken. AVG is just not afraid to dive in, and when you can do damage like this, why not? And with the support of Lowman to the side, he gets like a free taxi back in towards the urn turn-in spot.
Get the Waymo going.
I think the winning conditions have gotten very, very slim for Valhalla at this point. To the point that you think about what it would take for them to have a good team fight. Effectively, they need an early pickoff, and ideally it needs to be on something like Yamato. Urn turn-in gonna happen, even the score a little bit, but here comes a bloodlust Yamato. AVG looking for more. Up over the top, Kelvin gonna be on the list. This is as uneven as it gets if he's able to make contact. Flying strike up over Kelvin, running for dear life. This is a 30k Yamato versus 15k Kelvin. Not particularly fair, but Kelvin got a little bit of moves. Kelvin got a little bit of jukes. Going up the rope. Is Zerbzy gonna be able to get away? And uh-oh. Frozen Tomb has been activated. We'll see. I say Tomb because he's probably about to fall, and still somehow alive. Another flying strike into a swap. Zerbzy finally going down, but man, oh man, if it didn't buy a little bit of time, Dan.
Yeah, it was a good attempt. It's not fair, but life is not fair. And it's going to be even less fair now because melee creeps are going to be rolling in through to the base, combining their efforts. The snipe coming in from distance, down onto DMB. Death Slam for effect. Get pummeled by the Guardians, and that's going to be the end of Rocker. So at least some justice here for Valhalla, but it's going to be short-lived as 4 players now down on the ground with just Scout and Dew remaining. They can't do too much by themselves. So all these base Guardians and other structures that are imperative for base defense, for base integrity, are going to be at risk.
Needless to say, this is a bit problematic now for Valhalla. I mean, you're down nearly 30,000, and yeah, it's not looking good, is what I'll say. Because again, you have to always ask yourself, what are your win cons at any given point in the game? And I don't think they have a lot of options to actually take down AVG. Like, AVG is farmed to the point that even with lasso combo, I still don't know if AVG dies before doing Shao transformation and getting health back. And that's without considering other threats on the team, like the Pocket, like the Warden, even the Vindicta, who's actually stayed up reasonably well in farm. I don't know. I mean, Jason, I'm kind of going over potential thoughts of what Valhalla could do. Can you think of anything off the top of your head?
I guess the one upside they have is like the Death Slam at base when melee creeps try to push in, but I think melee creeps also might have just hit the point where you can throw them into your own spawn and they're not really going to care too much. They're just going to shrug it off. If anything, maybe they need to look for some picks in the jungle, try to set things up for Lord and M to get a combo onto someone and then a quick kill, and then use that man advantage to like hold on to the base a little bit longer. But with Rejuve, I mean, you're afraid to even leave your own spawn here at this point. And you can immediately see that DMB and Lord and M gonna head right back to base. I think for them, it's like you can try to contest Urn here, because I'd rather contest Urn than have to try to contest. Actually, I don't know. I can't really agree with that necessarily because you do have the Lash. But they need like a big wombo combo. And even beyond that, I don't think they have the damage to like kill multiple players from melee creeps in time. Like DMB is not fed enough. They don't really have another backup damage dealer except Dew. But I don't know if he maxes Essence Bomb just yet. And even then, I don't think it's going to do enough damage.
Yeah, well, that Urn's going to go for free, basically. And Valhalla are on the defensive. And they are not having a good time here. Melee creeps crashing into that defense. Although, Lemate's going to get down really fast there. It was an effort from literally every single player on Valhalla. Got an assist for that one.
And the structures with the sentry turret. One to get the kill. The true full team effort. Oh, AVG goes a little bit deep. I mean, running into both Guardians and getting comboed. That may just be enough power to take him down. So 2 down here from melee creeps. Valhalla looking to keep the hope alive. League gonna fall. Still though, blue chasing yellow, looking for the opportunity. The affliction though being dropped, definitely working down Valhalla's HP, but dude doesn't care. Finds another two. Still reasonably healthy here as the guy. Swap, though, is gone. You see right now, Saya trying to dash back a little bit. The rest of Valhalla still chasing on down. 181k, the 150k, and Dew getting the vast majority of these kills, beefing up his soul count. Not enough to fully turn the tide of battle here, Dan, but about as best as you could hope for Valhalla in that situation.
Yeah, it's about a 30k difference right now. Precisely 30k. So this late in the game, it's not insane. It can come down to the team fights a lot, like just how they happen. And I think, like you say, I think it was Jason that mentioned the lack of extra DPS other than Dew. That might be where some of the scaling starts to betray you. And melee creeps are in a pretty good spot right now. That again, just putting the punishment back onto these base guardians. Unrelenting pressure, obviously, you know, they get up quickly because of the rejuve buff. And so just keeping Valhalla busy, just staying defensive. And meanwhile, melee creeps have the entire map to fall back onto should they choose. And the rejuve is going to be over very shortly. There's a quick swap. Subsy goes down. And now, are they going to be able to roll this into game?
Well, they're going to be able to get both shrines. I think that much is for sure. Low main, though, goes a little bit deep again, gets hit by the sentry turret. So you're down low main right now. I don't know if you want to stay beyond first stage patron here, if you're Valhalla. And I'm usually on the, or sorry, if you're melee creeps, I'm usually on the side of just trying to end the game. I think you back out and maybe see if Valhalla makes a mistake here. You're ahead, but you're not ahead to the point that you can just brute force second stage patron. Not yet.
Oof. But isn't it tempting? No? All right.
It is very tempting. Look, I thought you were about to go another point.
No, thanks for validating me.
No,
yeah, that's all I wanted.
No, okay. Just that's right. It's like I thought you were about to like go into a grander analogy about, you know, the temptations of ending the game. You just wanted my feedback, so you know it's fine.
Yeah. Jason, what about you?
Nope. No, I don't remember even what you said, to be honest.
That's what I thought.
I just had to disagree. My default state.
I appreciate that. No, we don't hire sycophants here at DFN. No yes men.
Jason's sitting here going, I'm looking outside in the sun. I see the sun.
The sun is out. I can confirm, but I am also waiting. You know, maybe if I had an Intel 14 gen processor around my desk, I would agree with anything you said, DDK. Just saying.
Oh, well, I don't send them out. Just so you know, that's not my thing.
But you could.
That's right. You have one you could give away, even though that one is technically yours. You could be the regifter in this moment.
I don't know if any of this makes sense, but so I'm going to stop the conversation now.
Dan's just like, I would like to keep my top of the line processor. Thank you. Please go on to a new subject. And the new subject here is that Valhalla, not out of it here just yet, but at death's door, second stage patron, looking for the miracle to turn this thing around. But getting through AVG is going to be difficult. The only way they were able to kill him before is when AVG deep dove into two Guardians and the loving embrace of Mo, which I don't think you can count on as a consistent kill Yamato strategy, Dan.
No, certainly not. Props to do though for keeping up on the farm. 35k there, so making it competitive. In fact, these fights do still feel like potentially quite dangerous to melee creeps, despite some of the recent difficulties that Valhalla have had. They just need a good opening engagement. Now, looking to try to push into melee creeps here. Valhalla, are they going to find a position they need in this fight? Dew is taking heavy damage there, having to fall back and out of this one. And the time that he's out of the fight might be crucial. Last stand coming on through though. Cube also to protect. John on the ward and still full HP. That shelter will keep up a couple players, but it looks like it might be in vain here. Melee creeps are going to be up with 4 players, so they're looking quite healthy in this team fight. And right now you've got Scout just completely out of the fight. Subsy is going to die, and that's going to be Valhalla just absolutely wrecked.
I'm pretty sure Warden just changed the world. It took a little bit of time, but the world has been changed. Valhalla dead for over a minute. Only Scout is available. And even if Scout had the lasso, bringing one person into the fountain would not save them from their fate. There's going to be melee creeps rolling on forward, taking the third map in the longest day we've had in DFN in some time, but still remaining champions here and now. We're looking at the chase down, but look at the patron. It is falling in short order. Valhalla, you learned, you got new lessons, but still, Melee Creeps takes you to school in the end. 2-1 in our grand finals. Melee Creeps taking home the $1,000 here on Deadlock Fight Night 27, presented by Intel.
At least this time, ZP, it wasn't a 5v6 for Melee Creeps. But hey, credit to Valhalla. They came back much stronger this week than they did previously. Obviously, their first match was pretty one-sided, to be fair, but they looked much better as a team, much better when it came to what they were going to be drafting, obviously punishing John quite a bit. If it is indeed true, he doesn't have heroes to play past these three. But Melee Creeps are going to come out as the better team at the end of the day, picking more comfortable heroes, especially for like AVGs you saw on the Yamato. Obviously, getting Warden for John helps quite a bit too. But Melee Creeps, you know, the rightful owners, the rightful heir of DFN North America.
Also, before we get into other more serious matters here, can we just remind everyone as to why we had such a long DFN day? You might say it's because the teams were close, but we know better. We have the receipts. Production, get him. Do it. There you go. It's all your fault, Jason. It's all you.
Dude, I did it on purpose. I did it because I wanted to see game threes, man.
He wanted more like airtime for our sponsors.
Well, you know, these teams, they play like in front of a crowd once a week. You know, I wanted to make sure they can get as much game time and time in front of their fans they possibly can. You know, there's a lot of supporters. I know like the Melee Creeps have their own Discord server with like a ton of people in it. And you got Yodi always trying to make sure to like hype them up and get, you know, their fans watching. Just want more games for them, more airtime.
Well, it was a long day, and I think the one thing that we're kind of seeing here is that even when teams are on top in Deadlock, there's always ways to have things not go your way, because neither of our champions changed here today, and yet we had close games across the board. Even the vaunted Virtus Pro can bleed. At least they can bleed in Deadlock. They don't bleed in some of the other games that we cover here over at Fight Night. But yeah, I mean, this kind of brings us over into our player of the match presented by Intel. Jason, you were here the entire series watching as the analyst. Who do you got?
It's going to be Rescue Beam, our MVP. No, it's of course going to be Low Main in my eyes. Looking at him, though, Rescue Beam is something we're going to come back to talk about after this. But Low Main, man, like I think Viscous, over the course of the whole day, not just this match in particular, has had some great performances. I'm thinking about earlier with Virtus Pro. I'm thinking of like the Q play was great to see, like the timing to save your teammates. I mean, obviously, it's something you kind of build up when you're playing with your team and synergizing well with them. But the fact is, like, getting these Qs off the right time to save a person when you need them to, but also being in position for Rescue Beams on top of this, it's not easy to do. And you have to kind of like play around your team. And I think we saw Low Main do that exceptionally well when it came to Viscous. Obviously, his Lash. I almost want to say he's probably the best Lash we have in North America. But then again, we don't really see too many Lashes outside of him at the moment.
Yeah, I think the Viscous play is definitely the most impressive for me, especially just because, you know, we talked about the Rescue Beam, but it's one thing to actually be in the right spot at the right time to use it, and the cubes coming in as well. Like the amount of impact Viscous actually has as a support is pretty immense, and I feel like, you know, we saw that presence from Low Main pretty repeatedly to keep, especially like players like AVG safe, when, you know, those are the players that, you know, the star damage dealers are going to get targeted. And when you're up against a team that has both Holiday and Mo, your job is to ensure that your carries do not get just abused by that. And that, I think, was done well by Low Main.
Yeah, and it's important, I'd say, positioning wise, to kind of like feel out the way your team are playing in particular to make these cubes effective. Because if you're the one being ulted by Lord and M, well, you're going to die. So you have to play in a position that you're like behind your front line, you're kind of hovering around the position. And then when the combos come in, you save that player, you rescue beam them away, or whatever it might be to make your play actually work out. I feel like Low Main in this situation, and like I said, Demoff earlier on, they deserve a lot of credit for what they were able to pull off on Viscous. And then you look at like Goober in our first match of the day against TF2 Boomers. Like, he played a completely different style. He was more of a disrupted Viscous when he was in the back lines, constantly with the goo ball, almost able to like 1v1 a lot of players on his opponents.
Also, maybe not so controversial statement, but I do think on some level your Kelvin does need farm over the course of the game. Where you take a look at Zerbzy, it was a tough game as Kelvin, where yes, Saya was trying to isolate Zerbzy out with swaps anytime possible, but we kind of noted that in the income allocation, Zerbzy was behind for a lot of the game. And then you look at the stats, and not only, I mean, low damage you kind of expect from Kelvin, but even the healing, there was not really the opportunities to get massive Kelvin healing stats out, which, as you can see here, is definitely the case. I mean, 11k for Kelvin is on the low end, and it's not that Zerbzy necessarily played bad per se, it's just the nature of the idea is people wonder, well, does your Kelvin need farm? You don't have to be the most farmed in the game, but you probably need to be closer to the mean than Zerbzy was overall.
Yeah, and I think one extra different point though I wanted to raise, because I've been on this thread today in general with this new awesome stat sheet that we have from production, is the one player on Melee Creeps who had neutrals as the highest source of soul income. And again, it seems like all the teams that are winning have one player that does this extremely well. And that kind of makes sense, because in theory, it means that you'd get a higher distribution of souls for the rest of your team, because, you know, there's more for them to be getting on lane and elsewhere. So I think that's like a pretty critical thing. And it's something that I don't think we have seen from Valhalla. We saw this a lot from VP, with Michaelis in the pocket especially.
Jason, we're coming to the end here. We're running out of points. Melee Creeps champions once more, and it is too darn late to go for an interview. So honestly, we're gonna head to the end of show here, and I'm just gonna go final thoughts. Jason, you first.
I want to see what next week's going to show, because we've had the meta constantly shift up every single week, but also I'm looking forward to that patch the day before DFN next week that nerfs Rescue Beam, because it's probably going to happen what we saw today. 2 for each team. It seemed like every single match really being the true MVP of DFN number 27.
Dan, final thoughts.
I think that's such a good place to leave it. Good job, Jason.
All right, good job, Jason. Echoed by everyone aside from production, who has probably called out a hit. That'll do it for us, though, on Deadlock Fight Night number 27, presented by Intel. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in and watching. A long day of Deadlock, a great day of Deadlock. But guess what? We will see you next week for more of the same. Same place, same time. Catch us here on YouTube, wherever. We'll see you then.